Using us as slave labor.
The uprising is upon us!
We're under attack!
So let's say, for the sake of argument, that all of the water levels around the world rise by let's say 5 feet over the next 100 years, say 10 feet by the next 100 years, and it puts all the low-lying areas on the coast underwater, right? Which, let's say all of that happens. You think that people aren't going to just sell their homes and move?
Just one small problem! Sell their houses to who, Ben? Fucking Aquaman!
Good morning, my beauties and bees. I hope everybody is doing wonderful this morning. We are live from the Hive. I'm your host, the bombastic Bumblebee, and I am welcoming you again to the show, 9:30 Central Standard Time, as always. Got a wonderful crowd out here waiting for the show to get started, and they're asking questions about my intro crawl that I guess I hadn't talked about in a while. So the intro crawl is it's updated pretty regularly, but sometimes you don't notice it. But I add people or take people away. Now, is Miss Lemon on there? Yes, Miss Lemon's on there. If you don't know which one, you have to go back and look and try to guess. A lot of people are on there who don't know what their thing is or what I have for them on there, because it's something that's personal to me, not necessarily something that's personal to their channel. So it might be something that's personal to their channel or their own iconography that they use, but also might be something that, because of who they are to me, how they're presented on there. So just as a matter of principle, yeah, you're on there. Who else is on? Al Trucker, you're not on there yet. Nope. I will tell you that. I haven't updated it since we've met, honestly. So to give you an idea, I updated it Probably twice a year, maybe. Maybe I've known you longer than that. I'm just bad with dates. Anyway, good morning. Good morning. Good to see everybody. I want to say hi to all my Live from the Hive fans out here. We got Eddie McCoy, Sumami, Miss Lemon, Star Song, Ember, All Trucker, Bugbot out here stirring things up, Deep Arcs. Yeah, we got Greg coming in, and who else do we got? Yeah, that's all I'm seeing right now. But it's good to see everybody. Yeah, I do have the Ben Shapiro retooling of WAP on here. It's one of my intro crawls, but I mix them up. I don't want to play the same ones over and over again. My hair's kind of getting on my nerves today, and I slept in my makeup, so now I got baggy eyes. Oh, but that's okay. The show must go on. Oh, we're stinging, Bugbot. I've known you at least a year, Al Trucker says. Okay, at least a year. How long have you been producing content? Because you got to be a content creator. Anyway, we'll see what happens. But you may just make the slot. Yeah, well, I feel like I don't have any energy right now. Like I said, I kind of crashed out last night. I was like, okay. So before I go to bed, I have this ritual where there's certain types of content that I consume at certain types of day for my mental well-being, right? And at night, I consume fantasy stuff, right? It's got to be, so I was listening to the video on the history of the men of Middle-earth, and sitting up against my wall in my bed, drinking my tea, and it was about, it was pretty late, but I was just like relaxing my brain. I still had my makeup on, still had my hair all done. I was still dressed, right? So, and I fell asleep like that. And then I woke up this morning. But I don't remember much about the video, so I must have been wiped out. But I'm allowed to sleep in my makeup once in a while, aren't I? Oh. But sometimes I cheat and sleep in makeup so I can clean it up and go to work. Yeah, I mean, that's what I did this morning. That's why I said I feel like I kind of have baggy eyes, though. Because usually with my foundation, I put a lot of light color underneath my eyes right here. Just because the dark circles bug me. Not because I necessarily think they look bad, but I mean, I think they make me look old, to be honest. I don't like to look old. Anyway, yeah, so we got a show for you today. But before I dive into it, I wanted to expand on something. I know I keep, there's been a couple times in the past, well, over the last couple of years, that I've tried to launch a second project and run into some snags along the way. The first time was with the Battle for Gaia / Breeze Bestiary channel. It was just supposed to be a channel dedicated to talking about animals. I had a lot of trouble doing the video clips and stuff for that. Just turned into too much of a headache for me to deal with at the time. So shelved that. And then this last winter, just a couple months ago, I did the debate channel that I talked about. Now, that's not like gone or anything, but I have moved into being part of a larger group that's trying to work on launching something decent. So we don't have I can't tell you any details about it, but I've moved my ambitions for a debate channel to this group of like-minded individuals for the most part, I hope. And we're gonna see what we can drum up as a team. That leaves me with this channel, right? Actually, a couple channels that are just sitting stagnant. So I have some thoughts about it, but I'll get back to you guys on what happens with that, because I keep announcing this stuff and then it kind of doesn't come to fruition. It's like, oh, Bree's just talking at her butt about stuff she hopes to do. So this project, because I do want to do more than just this. This is my fun channel, right? This is where I just do whatever the hell I want. I have fun. I talk to you guys about science and monsters and animals and aliens and everything else, everything in between. And we have a good time here. But I do want to do something more meaningful. Now that I know now that I know the ropes. Like this kind of was I don't want to say this is my learning channel, and now I'm done with it. I'm always going to do Life in the Hive. Every Saturday morning I'm going to be here doing something silly and having fun, right? But I want to make some serious content. So keep your eye out for that. I will be. I will be. One way or the other. Oh, you taught your students about flat earthers. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm like old school Diablo. I didn't ever play the first Diablo, but it was only out for like a year and a half before Diablo 2 came out. But on PC, I got the first Diablo in 2001. And I played it like religiously, played it online on Battle.net. I was a pretty dedicated necromancer, and I had other character classes too, but I loved playing with the necromancer. And then when they introduced the druid, I played with the druid a lot. Sorceress was pretty cool too, but yeah, I played a lot of Diablo. You need to teach you how to befriend crows. They're a set of parents building a nest outside my patio. Well, you should probably start with like some offerings, maybe some food offerings. That's probably a good way to go. Yeah, Miss Lemon, the necromancer, the secret of the necromancer back in the early days of dial-up internet was to get enough skeletons, right? To get enough skeletons that you froze everybody else's screen. Like you gave them such bad lag that they couldn't move, and then you slaughtered them that way. That's the secret power of the necromancer. Shh. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pop into Cryptic Corner because we got our little fairy video today, and it's going to be a fun one. I will see you guys over there. Mwah. Hello, my beauties and bees. Welcome once again to Cryptic Corner, where we explore the world of the unexplained, the supernatural, the paranormal and hidden, the mysterious, the alien, the accursed, and the forbidden. I'm your host, Miss Bumblebee, and welcome to the show. We're continuing this fairy run for March. So today, by vote, we are covering a particular fairy hound. Now, this fairy hound has lots of offshoots of different lore from different areas, which is something you have a lot of in the British Isles, right? Every moor has a different version of the same, a different name and slightly varied version of the same type of monster. And today's creature feature is no different. It's going to be known by different regional names, And it's going to be, why is it saying San Pedro Mummy? That's not even on here. Oh, there we go. All right, there we go. Okay, so today we're talking about the QC. Now, the QC is different than the Kate She that we've covered before when we covered big ears and the mystery cats of Scotland. The mystery cats of Scotland were quite interesting, but the canine is a little bit more overtly aggressive, right? While when it came to the Kate She, there's a lot of summoning and stuff going on. You know, you had to really put in the effort. This cat wanted you to be like, it's like, if you're not serious, then don't even call me, because I want to see that you're going to roast all these cats and you're going to do all this stuff for all these hours until you drive yourself nuts, and then we can talk. Whereas the Kyushi is more like, oh, you didn't summon me? Well, here I am anyway. Better run. I'm a big, green, mean dog, and I'm going to rip you limb from limb. But there's different versions of it, like I said. So let's get started.
Deep within the dark and misty woodlands, the Scottish Highlands, there lurks a great beast, a creature whom, despite his great size, moves swiftly and with utter silence. This fey being produces untold dread in the hearts of those unfortunate enough to stumble across it. This spirit, known to be an omen of death by the locals, is the great fairy dog, the Coo-Shee.
Alright, so I don't know how to pronounce this first word. I think it's lay, but lay wolf, maybe. And the reason I know this word is like because the lay of Bellarine and things like that. Like, I was just talking about, I'm a big Lord of the Rings nerd, so I get a little touch of that in Sindar. Sindar likes to use a little bit of, yeah, it's like a Celtic version of Quindy. And if you know what I'm talking about, cool. If you don't, that's okay.
The Coo-Shee is a mostly malevolent fairy. It commonly takes the form of a giant spectral dog and can be found in the Highlands.
Oh, Sue, they're on my list. The green children of Woolpit are on the list. We will talk about them eventually. They will come around, I promise.
Of Scotland, preferring to live in the dense forests and make its lair in caves and rocky outcrops. It is said to be the size.
Let me know if the audio is balanced too, because that's been the bane. That's why I'm so far behind. That is why I'm so far behind. I'll pull my videos, right, and go into edit them, and be like, oh my god, the audio is so out of balance. I want to cry. Yeah, they're called the Woolpit children, or the green children of the Woolpit. Yeah, when I was a kid, I actually wrote a comic book where the main characters were the brother and sister, and they did like paranormal investigations. They grew up. So yeah, maybe I should revisit that.
Size of a large cow or bull, and is coated in dark green fur. Some of these beasts have long tails, which they coil over their back, while others have a flat braided tail. Many of the stories tell that the fairy dog has glowing yellow eyes, which can be seen in the
glowing yellow eyes, and then shows a picture of one with green eyes. Okay.
darkness as it stalks its prey.
And it's not always green, I will say that. People are asking about why it's green and stuff. I think probably the older version of it was more like a forest spirit. He's going to explain a little bit more about it and different versions of it. But there's some of them that are black. And we are going to talk about like black shock and that stuff today too. So, yeah, stick around.
There are very few, if any, creatures that invoke more terror than the Coo-Shee, for it is said to feast on human souls.
That's the funny thing. I talk to my twin brother all the time. I have an identical twin brother about how it was so obvious when we were kids that I was trans. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And like every time that we made like characters, there was always that set of twins, because we always were trying to make comic books together and stuff. We never could get our shit together, but we're both really good artists. But anyway, he's actually a professional artist now. But whenever we'd make brother and sister, or whenever we'd make a team of characters, and then we'd have our XPs in the team, it was always a brother and sister, twin brother and sister. And he's like, no, I don't know. I mean, I'd always make like male characters that I'd identify with too, but we'd always have that dynamic in there. It's so funny. And he's like, I don't know, I just never saw the signs. It's like, okay.
Its cousin, the devious Kachi, will steal a human soul if the body is left unattended. But the Kushi is far more aggressive.
And let me tell you, Keishi is my one of my favorite of these lesser gods, or whatever you want to call them, these tribal gods, or native spirits, or whatever. Of all of them, from all around the world, Keishi is my favorite. I've researched all the lore and stuff on it. It's such a weird creature. So if you haven't watched that one, go back and watch it, because it was a good episode. I was really, whether or not it was presented well, I don't know, but you can tell I'm really enjoying covering the topic. And then when I went from that to the Kellis cat is something else that I put a lot of research into.
And ferocious, it would actively hunt its prey. Although mostly silent, the beast would sometimes let out 3 hideous howls. These gargantuan barks could be heard for miles around, and if you were ever to hear one, then run with all the speed you can muster, for you must get to safety before the third bark.
I wonder if the Sandals says, I wonder if a Scottish wolf monster has stolen people's souls, because I don't think people have souls. Well, that's a fair point. There's another Scottish wolf creature, canid creature, that I'm not going to talk about today because it deserves its own video. It's called the Wolver, and if you don't know what it is, it's super interesting, but it's not what you think. The name of it and everything, you will not expect the characteristics and behavior of this creature to be what they are.
Is heard, or your soul is fair game. Some accounts say that after the third bark, the Kushi would hunt down the unfortunate Highlander and tear the very soul from his body. Others say that the third bark itself.
Whenever they say tear the soul from the body, I always imagine it ripping the bottom of someone's feet off. I don't know, because that's like, oh, it's gonna tear out your soul. It's like, the bottom of my feet, ow. But yeah, because I don't do souls either, so what exactly it could be devouring is not clear.
Would cause so much fear and terror that upon hearing it, the victim would die from sheer horror alone. The Kushi, on most occasions, would take the souls of its victims to the fairy realm, and there the soul would be trapped forever. But if the victim was a nursing mother, she would be brought to the fairy hill alive and forced to produce milk for the old gods, the Doinishi.
Can that happen to me? I want to freaking live in a fairy mound and produce milk for the Donshi. Where do I sign up for this life? It sounds lit. I bet they're like dancing and playing music all the time, and don't want to oversell the fairy world. I know it's not all flowers and rainbows, but which is, sometimes how it's presented, especially this time of year, specifically flowers and rainbows. There's a dark side to fairy lore, right? There were as much monsters hiding in the wilderness as they were beautiful little creatures that want to dance with you around the mushroom ring. They would, eating your soul was a popular thing, or stealing your soul was what they wanted to do. They'd take you to these mounds. The mounds are real. They're there. A lot of them are like native Britain populations that are extinct now and that were buried in these mounds, but they are the Tuatha De Danann, which the old gods, and they're tricksters, and shapeshifters and spellcasters, and humans went to war with them. Like there's a rich history of the war between humans and the Tuatha De Danann before the Roman Empire came, and there's this blurring of the line between conquering real indigenous people by Celtic invaders and actual folklore about magic and stuff. So yeah.
Many a tale of the Kushi has been told around a warm fire on a cold winter's night in Scotland. One of the oldest surviving stories takes place in the small western isle of Benbecula. It was during the 14th century when the island was ruled.
Benbecula. That sounds awesome. I am Benbecula. But you'd have to say it like a Scottishman. I don't know how you'd say Benbecula Scottish like. Benbecula? Maybe like that. My fake Scottish is probably as bad as my fake Carpathian, but give me a break, alright? I'm not getting paid for that. Oh, I am getting paid for this.
By the MacDonalds of Clan Ranald. On a dark and dreary night,
did he just say the McDonald's Clan Ronald?
MacDonald's men, Donalds of Clan. It was during the 14th century when the island was ruled by the MacDonalds of Clan Ranald. On a dark and dreary night, two of MacDonald's men.
The McDonald's of Clan Ronald. Oh my. So the real origins of McDonald's goes back to Benbecula. Benbecula? Yeah.
Were sitting and talking by the small fire. It was their duty that evening to tend to the calves, which were kept in a small barn. The pair were taking a break and swapping stories when two colossal dogs sprang from the dense woodland and ran straight towards them. Paralysed with fear, neither man could move as the spectral hounds came into the firelight.
So, Ember, the Tuatha they were never really considered human. I think they were human, like historically they were a human race, but they weren't. They're the Fomori too, who were also not considered human. You got who had the big eye? Og. There's a one character who has a big eye that you can open up and it blast everybody like Cyclops. And then there was Dagda, who could like eat anything. He had a big old belly. He was one of the Tuatha De Danann, or the Dagda, as they sometimes put it. But yeah, there's a few different weird monster like figures, but a lot of them are just like people. Most of them are people.
They stopped suddenly. It was only then that the men could see the Kushi were collared. The chain that tethered the fey dogs was made from a strange yet beautiful metal, and inlaid with all colours of precious stones. A haunting voice boomed out of the darkness. Slender Fey, Mountain Traveller, Black Fairy, Lucky Treasure, Greyhound, Seek Beyond. After these strange words, the Kushi turned and left slowly. Once the dogs were out of sight, the men recovered their senses, but were
Why is he throwing rocks, though? Is he throwing a rock at the dog? Don't throw rocks at dogs. But I'm wondering if the dog was supposed to have said this, or if it was just a voice from beyond, maybe from the forest. Maybe the dog's master was calling them.
compelled to follow the fey creatures. The curious pair tracked the dogs through the thick forest and eventually came upon a clearing. There in the night sky was a vision beyond any of their wildest dreams. They beheld the Slua, or great procession of the Fae. It would seem that the Doinashi were
It's the elves, Mr. Frodo. They're traveling to the west.
hunting, as each of the enchanted beings were accompanied by their own Kushi, and upon their arms were great hawks. The men were mesmerized by the spectacle before them. Later, they said that the sound of bells could be heard, and that the Fae were calling upon their dogs. The ethereal host marched towards the west, out over the great sea, in search of some unknown game or prey. The two men, still in awe of the ancient spirits, wished them luck with the hunt and returned to the calves. The pair would make their strange encounter quite well known, and it was recorded in the journal of an unknown Gallic scholar. Another tale comes from further south.
So most of this folklore is oral legends that are passed down, right? It's not going to be. There's not a lot of modern day sightings and things of the QC, but the black dog phenomena does continue, and we will talk about that.
One morning on the island of Tyree, as an islander was walking along a coastal path near Canavra, he spotted a huge dog laying next to a sand dune. Instantly, the man knew what he was looking upon and was filled with terror, yet intensely curious, since it was very unlike a Kushi to be out during the daytime. Knowing he was far too close,
I'm thinking he found like a seal that was molting. What do you think? This sounds like the story about a seal that was molting.
Outrun the beast. He turned slowly and, walking as softly as he could,
I don't know.
returned from the direction he had come. It would seem the islander had been incredibly lucky. Either that, or the mysterious beast knew his time had not come. The next day, the man boasted to the other islanders of his harrowing escape from the dreaded Kushi. Many were unwilling to believe that the dog was out during the day, and thought the man had taken leave of his senses. The islander led the unbelievers to the dune. Of course, by this time the great dog had gone, but all around in the sand were paw prints, far larger than the hand of a man. They all now knew it could only have been the fairy dog.
So, I kind of wonder if it's not folk memory of bears, because there were brown bears in Scotland, marginally at least, until... When did brown bears go extinct in Scotland? Let me Google it. I don't want to misspeak. When did brown bears go extinct in Scotland? When did they go extinct? The 10th century. So yeah, fairly recently there were Vikings raiding Scotland by this time. So yeah, so maybe this is folk memories of a subspecies of brown bear. Maybe they had some unique coloration in this area, you know, like we have with the spirit bears now. I'm just speculating here. There were wolves too, and wolves. When did wolves go extinct? I think that was much later. When did wolves? The last wolf killed in Scotland was in 1860. Yeah, so it's been a minute. Or not 1860, 1680. I said that backwards. Damn my my transposing brain. 1680. So about 680 years after the brown bear. So there are a lot of creatures that used to live in Scotland that could have been deified and mysticized. If we can deify and mysticize the ancient people that used to live in a place based on seeing their mounds and ancient stories of wars with them, why wouldn't we do that about the animals that lived in the region too?
This was not a great shock to the locals, as the Kushi had been seen in Tyree on many occasions. In fact, on another stretch of coast, there was a large cavern known as the lair of the fairy dog. One day, a young shepherd was out with his 2 collies tending to his flock on the coast. Suddenly a wild storm whipped up, and the boy ran to a nearby cave for shelter. While waiting for the rain and wind to calm, the boy went deeper into the cavern. Soon he would hear a faint yelping, and stumbled upon 2 large dogs. They were dark green in colour, but friendly of temperament. From the way they were acting, it seemed as if they were only pups, yet both far outsized the collies. The shepherd sat a while and watched the pups at play. He could feel that these dogs meant him no harm. After a while,
I want giant green puppies, please.
An uneasy thought crept into the boy's mind. What if the mother was to return? Quickly, he got up and headed back.
You know, it was Star Song. It was so bad I actually went and got tested to see if I had something going on with my wiring that was making me transpose numbers like that. I still do. I all the time. It makes it hard for me to do my stuff, my personal stuff, finances and whatnot.
Back out into the storm. It was then that the shepherd heard a horrific bark. Loud enough was the sound that the shepherd felt it in his chest. Fearing he had angered the Kushi, the boy ran with all the speed and strength that he could muster. Up from the beach, through the fields, leaving his sheep behind, the boy ran at full sprint. The moment his eyes spotted a small shailin in the distance,
head cheese is it's just a name for face meat. It's this part, and anything you can get from up in here, and the jaw muscle, especially back in here. Nom nom.
Second, far louder bark emanated from all around him. It hit the boy with such force he was thrown to the ground. Grasping and clawing, the boy pulled himself from the mud and dashed towards the shailin.
Evil Dead!
Throwing himself against the door, he violently entered the safety of the hut, mere seconds before the third bark sounded. Crippled with terror, the poor boy slept.
So you get 3 barks with the QG. I wonder how that stacks up against like a Banshee.
In the shailin overnight, and in the morning, cautiously returned to try and find his flock. The sheep were gone without a trace, but the 2 collies were in good health and overjoyed to see their master. It would seem that the Kushi bore no ill intent to its much smaller kin. The magical and unearthly properties of the fairy dog were well known. It was said that even the smallest part of the Kushi held great power. This was once discovered by a farmer from the Isle of Lewis, who on one afternoon did come across a large tooth found in his barn. It seemed to be the tooth of a dog, but far larger than any the man had seen. The farmer consulted with a local wise woman, and it was decided.
I wonder if he found like a Smilodon tooth or a bear tooth, maybe?
That the lone tooth did indeed belong to the Kushi, a rare and valuable curiosity indeed. The tooth possessed strange, arcane powers. When it was placed in drinking water, it would cure all ills affecting the cattle. It also acted as a charm, which would ward off evil spirits or witches. The tooth was handed down throughout the family for many generations. It was regarded as a precious heirloom, and the last known location of the magical tooth was in Canada, in the possession of an old widow, but that was many years ago. The Kushi of Scotland.
In Canada, huh? Need to track down this magic tooth. Like I said, I think it's probably and then all these people claiming to have it is probably not all the same fossil, but I imagine it's probably the fossil of a large, maybe a large canid, but probably more likely a large felid or a bear. Would be my speculation.
Has much in common with the other spectral dogs that are commonplace in British and Irish folklore. In the Irish Celtic.
Yeah, I was talking. Well, the artifact itself is in Canada, so I don't think it's the artifact itself necessarily has to be from Scotland. I think that they just add the folklore onto it. Yeah. Yeah, but no, there was no. The Smilodon was not in Eurasia. Smilodon was, or who lived in, there instead. There was the Homotherium that dominated in Asia. I don't know if Homotherium lived as far north as Scotland though. Scotland, most up until about 12,000 years ago, Scotland's been under ice pretty much the whole time. There wasn't anything living there. That's why all their fossils and stuff are going to be mostly they're going to be subfossils, are going to be from within the last 12,000 years or so. I think that there weren't any big cats in the UK. There were big lynx. They had a big subspecies of lynx that lived in the UK on the British on the island, big island. There were bears, of course. Seals and stuff come up on the beaches too, and they have big canines. I want to say it was a bear. That would be my speculation, or maybe a wolf, because there were wolves, of course. You know, a big lynx. I don't think a lynx. Generally, I don't think a lynx having bigger teeth than a large hound, though. Yeah, there were giant elk too, with the big horns or big antlers. I mean, whoosh, they're just monstrous. If you ever get a chance to see one, they're crazy big.
Celtic tradition. A similar fairy dog exists. This beast is also known as the Cooshie, yet spelt in the Irish fashion. It is said to be a great black-furred creature, and is also known to be a harbinger of death. The Cunanon is a spectral hound of the Welsh mythology. They were creatures of the other world, and were known to take part in the wild hunt. Descriptions and mentions of this so-called wild hunt can be found in much of northern European folklore, and is very similar to the march of the Doineshi that the MacDonald men saw that night.
Well, the wild hunt's a little more violent, right? The wild hunt is reported to be, you'll hear violent hoofbeats, baying hounds, men shouting, but not see anything. And sometimes there will be fog or even lightning. You may see fairy lights or shadows of horses, men, and hounds, but nothing corporeal.
Then there is the Churchyard Grim of English folklore.
Yeah, Megaloceros wasn't even really an elk. It was just it's a big deer. It's like it's a big relative of the fallow deer, I want to say. But the rack on that thing, yeah.
A large black ghostly hound, said to protect the church and its burial grounds. It's thought that the Grim is heavily influenced by Finnish and Norse mythology. The protective aspect of the Grim comes from a disturbing practice of early European Christianity, where a black dog would be buried alive at the north end of a church in the hope that it would become a guardian spirit. The colour of the Cooshie makes it unique when compared with these other canines of folklore. The green colour is an important point, as in Scotland that colour is commonly associated with the Doineshi, or fairies of old, and shows a definite link with the fairy realm. I will leave you now with a simple word of warning. If you are out walking in the beautiful woodlands of Scotland and hear a terrifying bark, run. Thank you for listening.
I am not going to run from a good boy if I'm in the woods walking. Dogs can bark if they want to. They're happy. If a doggy's happy and barking, I'm not going to run. Alright, so that channel was, the Oth Wolf, Lay Wolf, maybe? I will die trying to pet this animal. Exactly. You're not going to keep me from approaching this good boy. I got another video here. I'm going to just kind of fill in some of the blanks about other epic monster canines. So let's dive right in.
Throughout time, people across the world told each other tales of how they came to be, of heroes and monsters, romance and tragedy, death and rebirth.
Yeah, this is like a
mythology helped
channel.
shape the ancient world, explaining the unexplainable. This is Mythology Unleashed.
Unleashed. That was epic. I am like enamored.
Since the Paleolithic era, dogs have been faithful and loving companions to humanity. Being the oldest domesticated animals in history, it comes as no surprise that man's best friend
looks
has been
just like my
featured in
dog.
countless myths and legends. But some of the most famous tales of dogs come from paranormal and scary stories, portraying them as ghostly figures,
I like that art,
eerie
too.
beasts associated with the night,
Like a will-o'-the-wisp with a crow sitting on its back. Sweet.
and heavy storms, haunting rural regions and deserted areas, appearing as if from nowhere, and then vanishing without a trace. If one were to encounter a spectral hound, whether solitary or in a group, more often than not, the result would be disastrous, even deadly. No one knows exactly where the concept of ghost dogs comes from, as many cultures have associated dogs with
Well, I mean, I imagine it probably, well, animism, right? It's probably where it starts. People thinking that that there's spirit inside of everything, all living things, all inanimate things, just everything's got some kind of spirit or energy inside of it. And then when your doggo dies and you dream about him, that's the doggo coming to visit you, same as your loved ones. So that must be his spirit and energy.
death and the afterlife. Perhaps the legends of hellhounds, guardians of the underworld such as Cerberus from Greek mythology, or Garm of Norse mythology, had a hand in perpetuating the ghost dog myth. Whatever the origin, legends of ghost dogs are told all over Europe, namely in various parts of England, as well as the United States. Unlike many other monsters of legend, who often have outlandish and frightening appearances, a ghost dog looks like an ordinary dog, making them appear unassuming and even safe to approach.
Until...
However, nearly all accounts depict them as being notably large in size, with fur as dark as night, and eyes that glow like embers.
Ember, how do you glow so we can get a good idea of how the ghost dog's eyes glow? Is Ember still here? They're talking about you on the video and you're not... Yeah, I need to know how you glow. I'm going to put on some lip gloss while I'm listening
As they
to
are
this.
non-corporeal, ghost dogs are not subject to the laws of nature or physics. They leave no paw prints, can appear and disappear in the blink of an eye, may pass through solid objects or hover in the air. Weapons of any kind were said to pass through them with no effect, yet they may be capable of scratching people, animals, or property with their claws, leaving a scorching burn on anything that it touches. Animals.
There's a famous case about this, too, about one that comes into a church. And I might pull that up, too, just a second. If it's not covered on this video. I only watched the first part of this video. Yeah, in France in 18... And the door still has scars on it. Yeah, Trinity Church in Blythe, England, 1577. We will look that up in just a minute. If it's
Are said
not
to be
covered
sensitive to their presence. Horses and mortal dogs, in particular, are said to react defensively or even violently when their presence is sensed. These spectral hounds have been sighted on many lonely paths at night or at twilight, in both forests and fields, as well as cities, crossroads, churchyards, and cemeteries, usually alone, but occasionally have been said to hunt in pairs or even packs. What is different about the many
So sometimes, like the Kyushi that we just talked about being green and stuff, that's kind of a unique one. Most of them are black. Most of these dogs in this folklore are black with like red eyes.
incarnations of these canine apparitions is just what exactly happens should one come face to face with them. First and foremost, the ghost dog is most often seen as a harbinger of doom. Misfortune or tragedy is almost guaranteed to befall the person whose path they cross. The hanging hills of Meriden...
So doom's not always a bad thing etymologically, not to do anything with bugs. Etymologically, doom just means it's another word for like your fate or your destiny, what's going to happen to you regardless. Like seal your doom and stuff. It's only recently that's become it means a bad fate. I mean, something bad's going to happen. That's not what doom means in general context. And so I guess it comes from the expression like, oh, we're all doomed. But we are all doomed. You know, we're set on our path. Our feet are on or you can't break your feet off the tracks, right?
Connecticut are said to be haunted by a black dog, and if people were to see it on more than one occasion, they would be seriously injured in a calamity such as a tree falling on them, a sudden avalanche, or the path giving out from under them, or even getting in a car accident after leaving the trail. From Yorkshire and northern England comes tales of the Barghest, a spectral black hound the size of a small bear, with eyes burning red, and the ability to change its shape into that of a headless man or a woman, or into a rabbit or a cat, a horse, or some other animal.
This is one I'm kind of familiar with, and actually I had a friend who allegedly saw this creature on a country road where it's said that's where people mostly see these weird creatures. They said it was when they were far away, it looked like there was like a man seen on the side of the road or whatever, but as it got closer they realized it was a dog. But when they got close enough that it was in their headlights, it ran across the road and it didn't have a head. And yeah, that's the claim. That's the eyewitness reports. But I'm not saying I believe it. That's just what I was told. So at least there's some kind of phenomena linked to seeing large dark canines on deserted roads that don't seem to that and things happen to mess with your mind, of course. But I've gone like hours and hours of driving. I drove to Dallas, Texas, in like an overnight drive, and by the time I got through Oklahoma, I realized I was starting to have visual problems because the shadows and stuff were starting to move and whatnot. So I pulled over and did the rest stop thing, but it was weird for a while there because I was like seeing like it wasn't people, but I seen like trees and stuff popping up, and I was in the middle of freaking Oklahoma. There were no trees.
When a person saw the Barghest in its canine form, it was believed that the person who saw it would die shortly thereafter. Also in the Yorkshire area comes a story of a headless dog who haunts the Evelet Bridge, howling at night and leaping from the bridge and into the water.
I think Sumami just made a confession that we all need to be aware of right now. I want an elaborate dog costume I can don and cavort down the side of Scottish roads on all fours. Yes, that's also something that could be the source of this. Maybe there's like a ancient Scottish furry cult that nobody knows about that dresses as big green dogs.
Reports claim that all who see this phantom will die within 1 year's time. Though ghost dogs are mostly seen as bad omens, there are more than a few stories that depict them as legitimate threats to people that they encounter. Such is the case of one called Padfoot, rarely seen but heard padding around the forest trails, alley streets, and crossroads, with the sounds of a chain trailing behind him.
So we have like a Harry Potter character here, Padfoot. That's That's what the Grimm's name really was. What what's his name? Sirius Black. What his shapeshift form was called, Padfoot. So Joanne didn't come up with anything original. Go figure.
And occasionally emitting a sound no earthly creature could make. Those who try to make contact with it, either verbally or physically, were said to be dragged and then mauled to their death.
Oh no.
In El Dorado Canyon in Colorado lurk the Hell Dogs, ghosts of dogs who were trained to guard claim sites in the mines and to attack any who approach. Urban legends of explorers in the area being cornered, clawed, and even chased while driving have been spread throughout the country.
Ooh, that's interesting.
In St. Germain's,
So they're like dog spirits that are bound to these mines? That sounds like something worth exploring a little bit deeper. What do you guys think? That reminds me of kind of the story on Congo when they had the gorillas that were guarding the mines and the people died out, but the gorillas just stayed there and kept guarding them. Like if there's a feral pack of dogs that just keeps breeding in this area and training their next generation to guard the mines.
in East Cornwall, roams Dando's dogs, a pack of spectral hounds who race through the village just before dawn and run down any that they find, dragging the poor soul to hell. And then there is Black...
And there's probably some folk memory to that too, right? Like dogs will grab you and and historically speaking, and definitely during our early days on the food chain, a pack of dogs could easily get a hold of a person and tear them apart. They still can. A bold pack of dogs will still do that these days, especially like a child or something. So telling kids to be wary of packs of dogs, yeah.
Black Shuck, perhaps the most demonic and malevolent of the ghost dogs, who haunts English coastlines, lonely country roads, rural cemeteries, marshlands, and even train tracks. Whereas others of his kind tend to resemble actual dogs, if not abnormally large ones, Black Shuck is as large as a donkey, with a wild, shaggy coat, a mouth full of prominent, sharp teeth, and eyes that glow like hellfire. Though seen as a death omen, Black Shuck enjoys being the cause of death, with one legend from August 4th of 1577 describing Shuck ransacking St. Mary's Church in Bungay, killing a man and a young...
Okay, so in the Tolkien Legendarium, there were no Barghest, but there were Barghest are from Dungeons and Dragons, but there were werewolves, and then there were wargs that were different. What the difference was is never really stated outright, but the werewolves were more prominent in the First Age. Actually, Sauron, the Lord of the Rings, had his start as the Lord of Werewolves and as one of the chief sorcerers of Morgoth, of the old Dark Lord. He was the sorcerer. And he had a tower called the Tower of Werewolves. And he actually shapeshifted into a werewolf to fight a giant dog that was a lot like the Q-Shi, ironically enough, called Huon. And yeah, interesting stuff. But werewolves in the First Age, they could talk and stuff. Whether or not wargs can talk, I guess that's subjective. Eagles can talk, so...
young boy as they prayed, and wreaking havoc upon the altar, before moving on to another church in Blytheborough, where its bloodshed continued. It is said that both churches still bear the scars of Black Shuck's claws.
Yeah.
But not every ghost dog is a death omen or a vengeful spirit. There are some legends of ghost dogs acting as protectors and guardians of sacred places and wayward travelers. One story from Swarcliffe related how a man traveling alone in the woods was followed by a black dog until he had emerged from the trees. And when he turned around, the dog was nowhere to be found. Years later, he had learned that a pair of criminals had intended to mug and murder him, but elected not to when they saw the large black dog in his company. The Church Grimm, found in both English and Germanic folklore, is the protector of churches and hallowed
Church Grimms are about the saddest part, because you kill a dog and you bury it in your churchyard to protect it.
ground, guarding the grounds and the devout followers from Satan and his followers, both mortal and demon alike. Even some ghost dogs who have reputations as harbingers of doom or as savage monsters can have stories told about them in a protective light.
Because they're all good boys on the inside, or good girls. Good girls and good boys. Yeah, Black Shuck's kind of a dick, but I'm sure with the right training measures, we could get Black Shuck under control. He's no dog is untrainable to completely untrainable. Hey, Ben's here. Good morning, Dr. Ben.
Such as Guy Tra, also called Shag Foal. The Guy Tra is normally one for leading travelers astray, perhaps deeper into the woods or even into a deep marsh, or over the side of a cliff. But there are just as many instances of the Guy Tra coming to those who are lost in the countryside and guiding them to safety. Man's best friend has played a number of roles in mythology and folklore, but some of the most enduring in Western Europe and the United States
Black Shuck is evil, but I can fix him.
Picture them as a ghostly presence, black as pitch with glowing eyes and an ominous tone. Some, like the Barghest, are there to herald the oncoming of misfortune or death.
There's your Barghest sandals. Yay!
Others, like Black Shuck, are hell-bent on chaos and bloodshed, inflicting it upon those that they come across. And then there are some, like the Church
There were
Grimm,
not actually any black dogs in the Sherlock Holmes Hounds of Bakerville, was there? It was like a hoax.
to serve as protectors and guides. Regardless of their intentions or how they may manifest, ghost dogs remain one of the most popular and enduring paranormal folktales.
Is he shooting at it?
And to this very day,
Is dude in the pork pie hat out over here shooting at my dog? Sir, put down your gun. Leave that doggo alone. I don't approve of this.
reports of ethereal black dogs in dark places who seem to vanish as quickly as they appear without a trace continue to be told throughout the world.
Alright. Yeah, that tells me I'm probably going to get copyright on the music for this. But there's something more I wanted to cover before we finish up here. And this is going to be about the Blythburgh, England, Holy Trinity Church, and the legend of the ghostly hound that supposedly left its dark mark on the place. So these marks on this door, see these little black marks, are supposed to be the claw prints of a giant dog. I zoom in on this. Nope, it's not gonna let me. But you can kind of see them. There's this right here, 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 and here. That's allegedly where its paws scratched the door. There's the whole church. The door. Yeah, this is in Old English. I'm not going to read it, but there's the initial print up of it. And they got they leaned into it, obviously. I would too if it was my church. It is a pretty old church. Well, let's read what they have to say. Stories and sightings of ghostly and demonic black dogs are woven through folklore and mythology of the British Isles, like we just spent the last hour going over. Perhaps the most ancient and well-known of these entities is a black shuck. Tales of a black shuck, or simply shuck, haunt rural East Anglia, the coast and countryside of the counties of Essex, Suffolk, Norfolk, and Cambridgeshire. Descriptions of the creature's nature and appearance vary across time and space. What remains consistent, however, are the descriptions of its tremendous size. You wonder why I want to fix him. Sorry, I couldn't help that. Whew. Getting hot in here. No, I'm not into animals, but I did have a werewolf thing when I was younger. I liked werewolves. I'm not a furry, though. I do like the concept of shape-shifting. Gotta be Mystique from X-Men, so I can change into a werewolf or a bat, like Sauron. Let me see, where was I? Almost that of a horse. Its shaggy black fur and fiery red eyes. Some describe it as a guardian or guide to the lost, while others say it is an omen of death. Its name comes from the Old English suka or sku, meaning devil and terrifying, respectively. Oh man, you gotta do a super chat on that. What's 3,000? Oh my gosh, that's huge. LOL. Furry side coming out. Yeah, if I was a furry though, I think I'd be a moth. I'd be a moth furry if I had to be a furry. If I'd like make a fursona, be a moth. Maybe a bumblebee, but probably a moth. Thank you for the super chat though. Appreciate ya. The residents, no, bounces. Yeah, the ad just pops up in the middle of it. The residents of Blythburgh favor the latter after a devastating event in 1577. On the 4th of August, during Sunday service in a parish church of Suffolk, England, most of the village had gathered. A tremendous storm rose up and battered Blythburgh's Holy Trinity Church. Lightning repeatedly struck the church, dislodging the church's spire and causing it to fall through the roof upon the gathered congregation. Amid the darkness and destruction, illuminated only by the stunning flashes of lightning, a looming, shaggy, black dog is said to have appeared. Black Shuck rushed upon worshippers, knelt in prayer before dashing through the central aisle and out of the church, leaving long black scorch marks upon the large wooden doors. These hellish claw marks are known locally as the devil's fingerprints and remain to this day. According to experimental archaeology and researchers who studied protective witch marks, these tear-shaped symbols are more likely to have been placed upon the church's door intentionally with a candle or taper. Ironically, such an intentional burn was likely intended to protect the church from curses, demons as opposed to being caused by them. Throughout the village of Blythburgh, as well as in the nearby town of Bungay, which suffered similar horrors that same night, images of Black Shuck have become iconic. Bungay's coat of arms features the creature, as does the town hall's weather vane, which continues to attract lightning. Well, weather vanes do tend to do that. It's almost like that's their purpose. But yeah, so that was. Let's see. We had.
I heard the Lord say this on December.
Not that. We had a lot. Black Shuck. We had Grim. We had Kushi. Yeah, a lot of spirits. The Barghest. A lot of canid spirits and canids from beyond the grave, as it sounds like. At least with the Grim, it's an undead thing. Do you believe in ghost dogs? Do you believe in the supernatural? Do you believe that there were giant black fairy hounds roaming the Scottish Highlands? Do you believe a demonic black dog attacked that church? Do you think that mysterious, strange creatures roam the back byways of country roads around the world with no heads, apparently? And lastly, do you think that there is somewhere out there a magical giant Cushy tooth that can be used to cure all illnesses that got lost in Canada? Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, got my hair all tangled in my lashes. Yeah, please remember to be kind, take care, and we'll see you next time. All right, live from the Hive, you know the drill. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. We got more show to come. More shows coming. Don't go. This is just the end of the first section. And we have some good stuff coming up here. So don't you worry. We're going to explore some crazy claims and sci-fails today. So I will see you guys over there.
I heard the Lord say this on December 9th. He explained the mother of the homeland phrase. He said, this is the homeland. It's here. It's the United States. He's talking about the United States. He said, it's someone who is going to take this country in hand the way a mother would. Someone who is going to take charge of freedom and seeing that it happens the way she wants it to. Now, the Lord asked me to address the she language. I believe he's using this mother of the homeland, metaphorically speaking. He's not necessarily saying that he's talking about a female, though he could be. I don't know. But he also said Mothman, in the original word. So I think it could go either way. Then I heard later, Mother A. And when I went to type it down, autocorrect changed it. And it changed it to Mothra, which is a big, giant moth creature from the Godzilla movies. Those old stories and movies and stuff. And I was going to change it. And then the Holy Spirit told me not to. That's what he said to me to get me to write down Mothra. Maybe he knew I wouldn't write it down, if he said it straight up. But then as soon as I saw Mothra written down, I heard the Lord say this, a giant among the land, yet stowed away for a time in a capsule. It's kind of similar to what the Mothra creature in the stories was. A giant among the land, yet stowed away for a time in a capsule, waiting to hatch, waiting to show up in strength, having to take down a giant lizard to reach its goal. So this is obviously metaphor, okay? Obviously metaphor. But also, in this story, I went and I looked it up. Wikipedia says about Mothra, unlike other Toho monsters, Mothra is a largely heroic character, having been variously portrayed as a protector of her own island culture. So I did not know that when I heard this word, but I went and looked it up, and it agrees with this word that I'm hearing, that this is going to be a mother-like figure interested in protecting its homeland, protecting its people. So who is God talking about here? So a couple quick notes I need to say before I finish. Number one is answering this question. Is the Lord talking about 2024? He did not specifically say 2024 in this word. I would assume that is what he's talking about, since that's what we're leading up to. Yet, I'm going to say it in that context. I didn't hear 2024. That's an assumption of mine. So please take that in mind. The other thing is, this word actually seems to connect very specifically with one of the candidates. I'm not going to say who that is. Why? Because God did not ask me to make that connection. But just doing a little Googling for yourself, you may be able to find what it is I'm talking about. But there's a very specific connecting point to one of the current candidates. That's all I'm going to say there, is that may be the person he's talking about. It may not. He didn't specifically say who it was.
And I say, so what you're telling me is if I blow a hurricane through a junkyard enough times, over billions and billions of years, eventually, after one of those hurricanes, there'll be a 747 fully loaded and ready to fly.
What he's talking about, one thing he's talking about biology here, in which case we're talking about niche vacuums. So the tornado is the extinction event, right? The tornado comes through and wipes everything out. And then life starts to come back. So it's the space between the tornadoes that creates the new life. And at some point, one of those tornadoes came through and it wiped out some giant archosaurs, right? And this allowed these little scampering, warm-blooded mammals to have a chance. Tornado came through this little junkyard. These little tiny primates were able to start propagating and expanding and their ranges and moving into new niches and becoming more successful. Eventually, these little monkey guys even started to create their own technology, and that happened so fast. And eventually, they started taking aspects of other organisms on the earth and trying to emulate them, like flight. So then they built machines that could fly, and eventually they invented this 747 or whatever that he's talking about here. So this tornado, which the last big tornado I guess would be the KPG extinction event, did come through our junkyard. The myriad of life on Earth, it did blast right through that junkyard. What was it, like 65% or something like that of life on Earth? Where the iridium layer is, right? Where we can see on one side and on the other. So that iridium layer represents when the tornado came through. So the tornado came through the junkyard, and then as the organisms started to recover from that, and our little monkey hands started to want to build technology to fly, boom, the tornado in the junkyard did come through, and boom, we have 747s now. So yes, Ben Carson is right here. What happened, as long as we understand the metaphor, right? In the metaphor, the tornado is the extinction event, Earth is the junkyard, and the 747 is the result of the tornado coming through, wiping out the organisms that couldn't build 747s, and then letting the organisms that could propagate. Hello, hello, my beauties and bees, and welcome to another episode of Sci-Fails, where we look at some bad science coming from the internet, whether it's YouTube or Twitter or TikTok or any place that I find some bad takes on. Especially here lately, I've been on an archaeology kick. With whole Robert Seffer thing with him coming after Erica and Kaylee, who make great historical content and are credentialed in what they talk about. It drug me down this rabbit hole of all these crazy ancient civilization theories. But I think I may have found the most far-fetched one of all. And, I mean, you guys tell me what you think. I'm just going to dive right into it, and you all can be like, oh, I hadn't heard of this, because you haven't, I'm sure. Maybe you have. I doubt it, though. But let's hear what these guys have to say about the prehistoric megastructure discovered in New Zealand, the Kaimanawa Wall. You ready to have your woo brain blown out?
New Zealand is the last major landmass on Earth to be settled by humans. This distant island, located in the southwestern Pacific Ocean, remained uninhabited.
And I don't know if you're one of the people that take your meds with me, but now it's take your meds time. So I'm going to do it. 11 o'clock is, but I'm going to do it right now while I'm thinking about it, or else I'll forget. So if you have meds and you want to start doing this with me, I do this on the show at 11. I try to anyhow. So we're going to do this. I got my meds. This is my medications and my vitamins, and especially my propranolol, so I can eat food. If I don't eat, or not propranolol, my omeprazole or pantoprazole. I don't take omeprazole anymore. It stopped working for me. Otherwise, I won't be able to eat. So here we go. All right. Let's do it.
Until the first Polynesians, the Maori, arrived around 1300 AD. However, a remarkable discovery was made on the North Island of New Zealand, one which can completely shatter our established understanding of the region's ancient history. Within the dense vegetation of the Kaimanawa Ranges lies a large megalithic structure known as the Kaimanawa Wall, a formation of stone.
There's stones that break in straight lines? Must be giants, right? That's where we're going, so just so you know.
So precisely fitted together that it has ignited a fervent debate about its origins, challenging our understanding of New Zealand's prehistoric past. The wall itself is characterized by a series of tightly fitted stones which, at first glance, appear to have been placed with precision. The stones are massive, with some estimates suggesting that they weigh several tons each.
I always think it's so funny. They're like, all the stones are the stones. All the stones are the same size. It's like, you mean physics reacts on the same substance in the same way over different over the area that's laid out in? You don't say. Oh, these rocks crack. This type of rock cracks this specific way consistently. Must be man-made. What? Physics work consistently.
It was determined that the stones were 330,000 years old and were made of ignimbrite.
I can't believe you're still awake, Miss Lemon. Ah, we love you in the hive. And then Ben got up early to see me this morning, too. Good gosh. You guys are awesome. I have some of the coolest friends.
A volcanic stone made of compressed sand and ash. The nearest outcrop of such stone is 3 miles away or 5 kilometers. This aspect alone has fueled speculation about the level of sophistication required to assemble such a structure.
Can I just say, I just love looking at even just the hint of the New Zealand foliage that we get here is just like breathtaking. I love to just stand in a New Zealand forest and just breathe. Look at it. You can just tell how the air smells and tastes and feels in this place, right? With all the greenery and the rich soil, the moss. You know it. You know exactly. You know the smell. You know the feeling. That close to the stone.
Should it have been the work of human hands? Upon closer examination, the arrangement of the stones reveals an almost geometric precision. The stones align in a manner that suggests an intentional pattern, with straight lines and angles that are uncommon in natural rock formations.
Are they, though? Are they unnatural? You think?
This peculiar arrangement has led some to propose that the wall could be the remnants of a large megalithic structure, most of which is still unexcavated. In 1996, an investigation into the wall was conducted by archaeologist Barry Brailsford. Brailsford noted that the site was facing precisely due north, which is a pretty remarkable feature that is hardly a coincidence.
There's plenty of strange things about this wall, and one of them is the way it's facing. If you stand with your back to it, you're facing exactly due north. Now, it may be totally insignificant, but there's 360 other points on the compass where it could have been facing.
I've looked at that image of that wall, and I don't know if the whole wall is going to be, I mean, there's going to be some subtle, if you're telling me that wall is precision, I use that word loosely, is precision, that it's consistently facing due north along the full length of it, I'm impressed. I don't take that claim at face value. I think it's probably roughly north facing, and you got to understand that when you're doing this, a measurement like this, even like real modern construction with computers doing the calculations and stuff, there's still like a 0.02 margin for error on all construction. Yeah.
Noting that many ancient megalithic sites are aligned with the true north, such as the pyramids of Giza, Stonehenge, Chichen Itza, and many others. Brailsford came to the conclusion that the stone blocks of the site were not natural, and they were precisely cut and stacked. The sensational discoveries of Brailsford led to the publication of an article in the New Zealand Listener called Megalith Mystery. Are giant stones in the Kaimanawa Forest Park evidence of an ancient New Zealand culture? In the article, Brailsford made the following statement. There was no doubt that the stones had been cut. The 4 visible stones in the front wall were a uniform.
So, and he has this pre-Maori pet theory, this guy does. So let's keep that in mind too. That's his sort of his bag. That they called the Waitar. How do you say that? I think they say it later in the video, but the Waita people that he's claiming were older than the Maori.
1.6 meters tall and 1 meter wide. In one place, one could insert his arm into a root-ridden cavity and feel the back face and the front face of the next tier. The faces were uncannily smooth, with no saw or adze marks. The interstices where the blocks join were knife blade thin.
Did they look smooth to you? They didn't look smooth to me. Even the cracks looked little. I mean, not just like no shade. I mean, it's masonry.
Further up the hill, the tops of other stones protruded, suggesting a more extensive structure was buried in the hill. The Waidaha are a people often mentioned in discussions about the early human history of New Zealand, but their exact historical context is somewhat controversial and not widely recognized in mainstream academic circles. According to some accounts, particularly those found in certain non-academic sources, the Waidaha were the first wave of settlers in New Zealand. Barry Brailsford is also one of those historians who believe the Waidaha settled New Zealand long before the Maori, so he initially attributed the structure to them. He even talked to some of the Waidaha elders, asking them about the origin of the structure. He was stunned by what they told him.
It's pre-Maori and it's even pre-Waitaha. See, the people who were here before.
Now, it's weird that they divide, because the Waidaha, that's how I used to pronounce it, I couldn't remember how they say it, but they are a Maori people, right? They are Maori.
People as we know them today. People of Waitaha, the nation of Waitaha. And I brought the elders here. We came at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they came from different parts of the island.
The Waitaha elders?
Yes. They came here in the early morning, and they came to this wall, and they said, we know these people, but they are way before us.
Well, so that's just folklore, dude. Yeah, when we were talking about this last night on, where was I last night? We were talking about, was that last night or the night before? I think it was on the night before. I was on hanging out with Amy, or on Amy's. Amy wasn't there; she had to go to bed. But we were talking about folklore, and like that the Grand Canyon was made by Paul Bunyan wrestling with Babe the Blue Ox, or that the Mississippi River was dredged to drain his bath, or the Land of 1,000 Lakes is Babe the Blue Ox's footprints walking across the Great North. Just these folklore about the origins of natural phenomena. There's the Devil's Tower, right? That's a good one. Devil's Tower sticks up in the middle of, it's this volcanic caldera that looks really unnatural. It's got streaks down its side like a tree trunk, right? And it looks like a giant tree trunk, but and some flat earthers and things like that will actually say, yes, it's a tree trunk. But the natives had a folklore about it, about a giant bear that scratched its claws on it to give it those streaks down the side of it, right? And Mato was his name. So folklore about people building, being responsible for natural structures, and the Giant's Causeway in Ireland is another one. Look at that. People to this day claim that the Giant's Causeway is not a natural structure. Let's look at some images of that real quick, just to get an idea of how natural physics are going to react to the same type of stone the same way, right? These are washed and kind of smoothed out, but people, you look at this and they say, "Oh no, this has got to be built by somebody because these all break the same way, or these crack the same way, or split the same way." And it's just the nature, the type of stone it is, right? It is cool looking, and it does look artificial, but they are very much natural. And people to this day will argue that they're made by some lost race.
Curiously, the Maori also stated that this construction was not their doing.
Oh, let me catch up on the chat real quick. Sorry, I've been ignoring you guys. I don't know if they're classified as Maori, but genetically they may have some similarities due to where their ancestors come from. Yeah, I just they call them a Maori iwi. But yeah, as far as the origins, maybe you could be correct. I'm not sure. The Great Lakes were made by Paul Bunyan during a fight with another giant. The lakes are where they threw each other down. Yeah, things like that. Yeah, my people also have ancestral stories, but some of these are clearly fake, like our creation myth. Yes, we have oral traditions, but some are stories. Yeah, Giant's Causeway. There you go, yeah. In Lake Tahoe, there are 4 big scratches in the mountain above Sand Harbor. My family would always say that a giant bear was trying to climb out of the valley. Basalt naturally fractures in hexagon patterns. I know, isn't it cool? I think natural means hairy armpits. Clearly made by Bigfoot, right? Hail Bigfoot, captive desk. Hail Bigfoot. Woo!
As they had never built any megalithic structures. The blocks run for 82 feet or 25 meters in a straight line from east to west.
How can you be so sure that this is man-made?
I mean, the idea that the wall is facing north, the blocks are very uniform. Because the wall is starting to collapse to the west, the blocks are pulling apart from each other. There's spaces in the blocks we can get down.
Or 25 meters in a straight...
Here's a neat thought experiment. Okay, so you're exploring into a forest, right? And you come across... they haven't talked about what this is made out of yet, right? And you come across a straight ridge, or straight wall, we'll call it a wall, straight wall like this, 82 feet long, 25 meters, however you want to look at it, but, and you have to make a decision, right? You have to decide, were there ancient people here tens of thousands of years before anybody should have been here, building megalithic structures, before there were people in Australia, before there were people in the Americas, or is this a natural structure caused by geological shifts in maybe plate tectonics, volcanic activity, erosion? Have we looked at how those things might act on this particular type of rock? The way that they fracture, have we tested this rock to see what the fracture patterns are? Like we just looked at with the Devil's Causeway where they have the hexagonal fracture. Have we looked and seen if this is a stone that has a cubic, cubic, would that be right? A cubic fracture pattern?
Line from east to west.
How can you be so sure that this is man-made?
I mean, the idea that the wall is facing north, the blocks are very uniform. Because the wall is starting to collapse to the west, the blocks are pulling apart from each other. There's spaces in the blocks we can get down, and behind them we can see other blocks that are also uniformly cut and squared. Behind the blocks that we can see about 9 blocks.
See, a geologist I talked to today said, oh yeah, but there are things like...
Wait, is he saying they can see nine blocks deep? Oh, they're talking about the Giant's Causeway too. Can you see like 9 blocks deep in here? Is that what he was just claiming? Let me back that up. They're also uniformly cut.
They're also uniformly cut and squared. Behind the blocks that we can see about 9 blocks.
See, a geologist I talked to today said, oh yeah, but there are things like the Giant's Causeway in Ireland, which are natural phenomena. Those big square blocks, it's possible.
Okay, right. Now, that is actually basalt. That's basalt crystals, and as that kind of volcanic core cools, it crystallizes into these 6 8-sided crystals. In fact, there's a giant city built in Micronesia 11 square miles called Nan Madol. It's built out of...
Researcher and writer Brian Forster, who has visited all of the ancient megalithic sites around the world,
there's also, but okay, they want to. Oh, but it's basalt. Other stones have different fracture patterns. Bimini Road's another example. Bimini Road is limestone, and they're rectangles. All of them, they're rectangles, just like what you're looking at here. Oh my gosh, let me show you. I keep having to get sidetracked with different. I don't know if watch 5 minutes into the video, they're gonna bring up Bimini Road anyway. But here, we'll look real quick. Okay, so this is like, yeah, these big rectangular blocks. They look like staircases and, yeah, slabs. These are natural formations, but they look like they're man-made. Right? This isn't unheard of.
Was also fascinated by the Kaimanawa Wall, and upon visiting it, he noted that the structure is the only stone outcrop in the entire area, and within a 20-mile radius.
Miss Lemon, why are we on the same wavelengths? Because check this out. After this video, I had this pulled. Yeah, this was already on the agenda. Mm-hmm.
Of the site, he didn't discover any other stones. He also noted that the strangely flat stone blocks were fitted in a way very similar to those he examined in Cusco.
What is interesting is it's the only stone outcrop in this entire area. We drove like 20, 30 kilometers into this ancient rainforest, and it's the only stone at all, and it's has strangely flat surfaces and looks like some of the megalithic work.
This is an Ancient Aliens guy, by the way. I don't know if you guys know that or not. Hold on just a minute, I'll be right back. I'll keep this playing.
Find in the area of Cusco in Peru.
Cutting massive stone blocks and fitting them together without mortar is an advanced ancient construction technique that is seen not only in Peru, but in other parts of the world, such as Egypt. This indestructible form of polygonal masonry was convergently developed by cultures with no communication, of which none possess sufficient tools to quarry, transport, carve, or place these stones. Many believe these cultures actually inherited these sites, and that their true builders were part of a global and technologically advanced ancient civilization that perished at some point in time, possibly due.
So here we go. Now we got to go down this deep rabbit hole. It went from, hey, maybe there were old Maori people here who built these stone structures, right? Maybe it was a Maori group of people. Nope, we got to go full tilt. Atlantean conquest.
To some sort of cataclysm. Going back to the Kaimanawa Wall, it was also noted that there is a consistent bevel on the upper stones, going all the way to the other side of the structure, and the beveled edges on the rocks are identical.
Close examination reveals behind the first lot of blocks.
You mean erosion reacts the same on these rocks consistently? It's almost like physics are consistent, right? Weird how physics can do that.
Are more layers, separated by a perfect gap. The surface of each block is smooth, as if it's been cut. There are other mysteries too.
In other ancient civilizations, they had a stone which you paid respects to when you came into the site. And everyone apparently has this. And, you know, conveniently, here it is.
One of the
Where'd you pull that out of? Where's that from? You're just making some claims there, aren't you, buddy?
Indicative discoveries suggesting the structure was man-made was that some of the lower blocks featured precisely cut recesses, allowing them to slide underneath the blocks above, effectively interlocking both sets of blocks. The lower block was probably dislocated after the catastrophic eruption and earthquake of 186 AD, which most likely caused it to shift.
So, I'm going to do a poll. Which is more likely to be real, this or the Bosnian pyramid? Here, I'll play this while I'm talking about it.
Our archaeologists dug down about half a metre below this face here, and this face was still going down, and we used a steel probe to feel underneath, and we were striking rock underneath that. So that gives an indication that at least there's something further down again. And the rocks themselves bend in a sort of a semicircle around, and it may be the shape of some sort of structure.
At the bottom of one part of the structure, there were perfectly smooth rock surfaces with square edges.
We were standing on a piece of rock face which was so smooth we couldn't believe our eyes. It was just like it was poured concrete. And I think that speaks for itself. Square-edged, everything.
Curiously, the same thing was discovered in another section of the site. In one area, the discovery of another floor surface revealed an intriguing characteristic. Upon tapping, the floor emitted a hollow sound, suggesting it might not be a floor at all. Instead, this could indicate the presence of a roof concealing an underlying chamber.
If you, just for the sake of the camp...
It's just a speculation, though. You say, oh, maybe a chamber underneath there. Go down, do it. No, you can't just start digging into the mountainside, but I don't think that there's evidence to support this. Maybe, let me look. There's some spikes coming up here, so something's going to happen that people keep rewatching. So let's sit on the edge of our seats, people.
Right. Just get your spade and run the spade across the top of that. Now, that just sounds like you would be running a spade down a concrete slab. And that to me is bloody like concrete. That's just amazing.
In fact, in many areas around the site, probes were able to hit solid...
You know, it's the funny thing is concrete is just man-made sediment, right? We pick the sedimentary minerals that we like the best, and that hold up the best, and we make sediment, and we make our own sediment. That's what concrete is.
Rock beneath the earth.
Well, we were probing through an area here. It's obviously going down through the pumice a certain distance, and bang, it hits a perfectly level area where it sends a vibration back up through the rod. It makes a kind of a humming sound as we hit something very solid.
And what does the sound of wood, what does wood sound like?
See, it's like a thud, but it doesn't have the ding. See, and I'm not very deep. See, look at that. See, that's hitting root. If I just go here.
Is that a massive tree next to you with wooden roots spanning probably acres around you? And you're like, oh, maybe I'm hitting some wood?
Hear the difference?
Yep.
Considering the area around the Kaimanawa Wall is relatively flat, some people suggested that the evenly sloped steep mound behind the wall could be hiding an enormous pyramidal structure. On one side of the hill, more stone...
Oh, well, there is a pyramid, finally! New Zealand has a pyramid, guys! The New Zealand pyramid, let's celebrate. You know, it's kind of funny because part of the argument about pyramids is that they're all across the equator now. That's going to throw a big wrench into the ancient alien theory about it being a... What are you going to do with that? No, it doesn't match your that they're lined up around the equator.
Blocks are visible. These blocks, similar in appearance to those on the wall, display a high degree of symmetry and descend the hill with precise alignment. Remarkably, the angle at which these stones are arranged mirrors the overall incline of the hill itself. And right next to this piece, there's another small...
The rocks on the hill mirror the incline of the hill, and he finds that worth noting.
Piece of exposed stone blocks with the same degree of incline. A short distance away,
that was blocks, and it looked like rocks to me. Looks like just weathered stone.
Piece has been unearthed, exhibiting the same precise symmetry and alignment as previously observed. Additionally, this piece features the beveled edges seen on the main structure, with the bevel's angle being pretty much...
You must have failed shop class if you think that's a bevel.
...identical to other stones. This consistency raises questions about the site's true nature. Could it be...
I guess it's a change in the angular slope, but it's not a bevel.
...something far more complex than a mere stone wall? Might it actually be an ancient pyramid, akin to those discovered in America? It's worth noting that most of the American pyramids were initially indistinguishable from natural landscapes due to being completely enveloped in soil and vegetation.
No, they were buried during the colonial era to protect them from the conquistadors and invaders. They literally... There's historical records of them burying their pyramids to hide them. The Aztecs, the Maya, they all buried them when their civilizations fell because they wouldn't want their ancient monuments to be destroyed. It's documented. You actually have excavation videos and things about it, in explaining why and how they were buried, because there was a process by which they buried them that's like studied, right? Yeah, there was the processes of which Native American groups built their mounds are studied today because they hold up so well. And this is important in things like in ecological studies of like levee work and things like that, and containing wetlands, how these mounds were structured to hold up and keep water from passing through. So it's important stuff.
Take, for example, the pyramids at Teotihuacan, which resembled ordinary hills with no stones visible on the surface.
Oh, yeah.
Similarly, the temple pyramid at Tikal revealed only a small portion of its structure, much like what we observed in New Zealand with the Kaimanawa Wall. In 2019, research was published on the Tureho, New Zealand...
Did you notice how there's not giant ancient trees growing on top of this, though? Like, when we look at these pictures, see how there's no giant forests of trees growing on top of this? Right? Of big old trees. That's because this was recently buried. Within the last couple hundred years it was buried.
Which resembled ordinary hills with no stones visible on the surface.
Yeah. Also a bald hill. Now this one's deep in the rainforest, right? So rainforest takes back structures pretty quick, but it's mostly vining growth that's covering it here. It's not like it's completely caked in soil. It's obscured by foliage.
Similarly, the temple pyramid at Tikal revealed only a small portion of its structure, much like what we observed in New Zealand.
It didn't, though. That picture is misleading. It was covered with foliage. Foliage is not... I mean, yeah, there was probably some soil from buildup of, like, you know, how you get around your edges of your sidewalk from plants growing and dying back and growing and dying back. That's just how deposition works from decaying matter. Turns into soil. Did you not know that soil was made up of just basically dead stuff and some minerals, but mostly dead stuff?
New Zealand with the Kaimanawa Wall. In 2019, research was published on the Tureho, New Zealand channel, where they showed a remarkable discovery with the use of ground-penetrating radar. As they show in this picture, 2 or 3 meters below the white tape, which is almost 10 feet, the ground-penetrating radar showed an identical pattern as the pattern corresponding to the wall on the surface. This means that below the ground, the structure continued in the same exact pattern of construction with more massive ignimbrite blocks stacked together. Additionally, The video showed some very intriguing rock.
I see a lot of people voting for the Bosnian pyramid, and I get it that that's probably the most realistic one of these. To me, the Bosnian pyramid is one of the most problematic, though, because it is like the notion that there's multi-racial origins, right? That black people came from Africa and white people originated in Europe, is what they use that pyramid to try to argue for.
Rock incisions on the surface of a hard rhyolite rock. All of this information, taken together, suggests that the structure was something much more sophisticated than a mere wall. But what? It's interesting to note that volcanic rocks, especially those high in silica content, are typically found in areas with geological faults and are associated with strong magnetic fields. The presence of water flowing across such stones can generate
we're getting some spirit science stuff now. Oh boy.
Electric currents, leveraging the silica's properties, similar to its use in computing for information storage and conduction. The site's location on a fault line, known for strong magnetic and telluric energies, led many to theorize that the structure could have served as some sort of energy container, harnessing the Earth's natural forces. But if
if you're gonna harness energy's natural forces, the best way to do it is to build a wall in the middle of the jungle and then let it decay. Does this really look to people like something like man-made? Like, if you look at this, does this look man-made to you? Does it? It doesn't look man-made to me. I'm not an archaeologist or paleontologist or geologist or anything like that. This looks very natural to me.
If this is true, why hasn't the site been properly excavated? Despite all findings, the government of New Zealand refused the notion that the structure is the work of an advanced ancient civilization that settled in New Zealand long before the Maori. In fact, the government actually forbade any archaeological excavations on the site, as you can see on the sign placed before the structure.
This rock formation has been scientifically established to be part of a large ignimbrite outcrop formed naturally 330,000 years ago. It is an offense under Conservation Acts to interfere with or damage natural features on public conservation land. That's based, yeah. And if the native people had a reverence for this spot or folklore around it, it can be a holy site for them too. I totally grant them that.
The official stance of the authorities is that the site is nothing more than a natural formation, a byproduct of volcanic activity that occurred long ago. But how could they be so sure without conducting a proper excavation? Moreover, why would they forbid others from doing any archaeological work on the site?
There's no archaeological work to be done on the site. It's natural. Are you meaning geological work?
Actually, they have a very good reason for doing so. They refuse the notion that the site is built by an advanced civilization simply because that is the politically correct thing to do. New Zealand, like many countries, grapples with the challenges of reconciling its colonial past with the rights, traditions, and history.
Right, so you want to disenfranchise the Maori of them being the first people of New Zealand and say, nope, there was an there were a better people before them. It's just the same thing you do with they did with the mound builders, like I mentioned before, or the idea that there was a Aryan invasion of India that gave rise to the prosperity of India that spans most of the modern era. People don't seem to realize that, for most of modern human history, India has been the richest, most prosperous nation in the world, right? For most of human history, India, or for a lot of that time, it was the Mughal Empire, right? From essentially the medieval period right up until the British colonization of India, they were literally the most powerful force in the world, or not most powerful, the richest, most prosperous. And people don't think about that, but so the idea was that, hey, there's no way these brown people figured this out. They must have had some white people come teach them this stuff.
Histories of its indigenous people, in this case, the Maori. The arrival of Europeans in the 18th century.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Lemon. Yes, Africa. In Africa, Ethiopia, for example, is the oldest continuous nation in the world. Ethiopia, a lot of what we consider a civilized nation was the groundwork laid in Ethiopia.
Mark the beginning of a period of significant change, conflict, and cultural exchange, the effects of which are still felt today. In New Zealand, the indigenous Maori people are organized into various tribes and sub-tribes. The exact number of tribes can vary depending on how one defines and recognizes them, but there are over 100 of them in New Zealand. Each tribe has its own social and political structure, history, and connection to specific regions of the country. A significant process has been underway in New Zealand for several decades to address historical grievances and recognize.
Right. Well, I mean, this is a global movement. We see this in Canada and the U.S. Indigenous people are finally standing up and saying, you know what, stop. I wish we'd do that in Hawaii too. I know there's a small movement in Hawaii, but Americans like to be able to pretend Hawaii is our own little personal vacation spot and not a. Well, Hawaii should be a sovereign nation, but I'm not going to beat that drum because I don't think that will ever happen. But I would love to see Hawaii get its freedom back. It doesn't need to be a state. I don't like they want to be a state either. I wouldn't want to be a state if I was Hawaii. I'd be like, nope, I want to be a nation.
The rights of Maori tribes over their lands. This process is facilitated through the Waitangi Tribunal, which was established in 1975 to investigate and make recommendations on claims brought by Maori relating to actions or omissions by the Crown that breached the promises made in the Treaty of Waitangi, signed in 1840. Many tribes have engaged in this process and have had settlements reached with the New Zealand government that include formal apologies, financial compensation, and the return of certain lands to tribal control, among other forms of redress. These settlements are specific to each tribe and are based on the unique circumstances of their claims. The process of recognizing land rights and settling historical grievances is ongoing, with many tribes having completed settlements and others still in various stages of negotiation or awaiting resolution.
Well, I don't know why this is being played like it's ominous. This is freaking based as hell. Yeah, justice for the Maori people. Even though I'll have to learn to forgive them for what they did to the moa. But, you know, people gotta eat. Big giant birds are delicious. I get it. But, yeah.
In this context, archaeological discoveries and interpretations of historical sites can become highly sensitive issues. The way history is told, the emphasis on certain narratives over others, and the recognition of cultural sites and artifacts can all have implications for national identity.
And this is kind of the same thing we talked about when we did the San Pedro Mountain Mummy on CryptoCorner. What was that? It's been a little bit ago. Not a little bit ago, a couple weeks ago maybe. Anyway, yeah, the indigenous people do have rights to any ancient sites or burials in their ancient homeland. They do have a say on that, and yeah, you want to come in here and say no, it was ancient Atlanteans, and I'm going to dig it up, and it's I'm not even saying it's I think this is a natural formation, but even if they want to claim, yeah, this was the wall of our ancient people or something the people who were here before us. Even if they say that, the natives say that, right? That's their folklore. That's their tradition. That there were ancient people here that built the natural wonders of the world, right? That's fine. They can do that. That's what we were talking about with the Irish when we were talking about, or the Irish and the Scottish when we were talking about the Q-She. You can say, all these mounds, that mountain, this forest, whatever, is sacred to our ancient people, or to there was some kind of tie to our mythical history of our people. Then leave it the fuck alone. Let them have their thing.
Cultural heritage, and even political and legal rights. The megalithic site at Kaimanawa, given its mysterious nature and the debate over its origins, falls
there's no debate over its origin. There's conspiracies about its origin.
Into a category of historical and archaeological interest that is inherently intertwined with these broader issues. Some individuals and groups have suggested that the reluctance to explore certain theories about the site's origins, particularly those that might suggest a pre-Maori human presence in New Zealand, could be influenced by political considerations, as acknowledging such a possibility might undermine the recognized status of Maori as Tangata Wenua, meaning people of the land, and disrupt the established historical narrative of New Zealand. It's
not an established historical narrative. They call it a narrative. It's what the evidence points to. You're just trying to disenfranchise a native people. Shut the fuck up. I'm getting irritated now. I got 10 more minutes of this video.
Cause a significant political and ethnic fracture in the country, and potentially affect land claims and government compensations to the indigenous people. Despite the official dismissal of the Kaimanawa Wall as a mere natural occurrence, the arguments and observations presented by some researchers point to a more complex and possibly intentional origin, suggesting that this structure could be and possibly presented by some mere natural occurrence. The arguments and observations presented by some researchers point to
researchers is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. Because we look at the researchers you're talking about, and it's the ancient alien people. Those are your researchers.
To a more complex and possibly intentional origin, suggesting that this structure could be more than just a coincidental formation of nature. But if the New Zealand authorities can so easily dismiss such a controversial site just to keep the status quo, does that mean that there may be other discoveries in New Zealand that can prove an ancient civilization existed here?
I'm suspecting that it's the way those roots of that specific kind of tree they keep showing, that the way that it cracks through the bed or through the stone to get to the groundwater. I think that's probably a pattern we might be seeing too. I shouldn't say probably. That's my pet theory, that these trees are specifically able to. Well, it's the physics of the stone too, though, because there's the stone's gonna have consistent fracture points, right? So the tree roots would spread out and keep digging for groundwater and hit those fracture points and cause the fractures to split to allow the roots to get down through to get some of that tree something to drink.
The notion that New Zealand remained uninhabited until the arrival of the Maori around 900 years ago sounds a bit off, especially when considering the extensive human presence across the Pacific. Mainstream archaeological evidence and Aboriginal mythology suggest Australia has been settled for over 40,000 years, and even remote locations like...
That's true. But Australia is not in Antarctic, or not off of Antarctic waters either. The Polynesians were not cold. They didn't move into subarctic regions. They just didn't, and I don't see why. The expectation is that they would have established settlements here prior to that, right? If we look at the way that they spread equatorially and then dropped and then moved southward, right? That's why we have islands in like off the Philippines and stuff that have been inhabited for, you know, tens of thousands of years, and then we have islands that are like Hawaii at the same latitude that's only been inhabited for a few hundred years. So maybe 1,000 years. Yeah, a couple, maybe Hawaii. Yeah, I'll have to look that up. I don't want to speak out of my ass, but it's the same situation here. It depends. It's just migration patterns, right? Currents, weather patterns, seasonal. You know, a lot of factors come into play.
Like Easter Island, have a rich history of human habitation. Given this backdrop, the idea that the islands of New Zealand remained undiscovered until 900 years ago seems quite peculiar. Adding to the intrigue are stories from Maori folklore, which seem to hint at a pre-existing knowledge of New Zealand.
Hold on, I'm just checking something here because Easter Island is about the same, has been populated about the same amount of time. Let me see. History. Rapa Nui settlement. Yeah, from 300 to 1200 CE. So it's the same time frame. What are you talking about? It's the same time frame as New Zealand.
Among these tales, we can find the very reason the tribes came to New Zealand. It was the quest for greenstone, punamu, a highly valued nephrite jade found in the South Island. The lore raises compelling questions. If New Zealand was truly untouched and unknown, how did early Maori or their Polynesian ancestors come to know of the existence and location of its greenstone? This narrative suggests that knowledge of New Zealand and its resources...
So most places that we eventually colonize, we spend decades, if not centuries, visiting and hunting on and making temporary encampments in before we set up permanent settlements. So even like New Zealand, right? It's doubtful that the very people who discovered it also colonized it, right? It would be something along the lines of probably maybe fishermen or people looking for timber or for construction material to build weapons and things like that, or tools with, that they traveled to New Zealand and harvested stuff and brought it back home. That's like not a unheard of thing and they could have done that for centuries before. That's how like the Vikings, when they were in Greenland, right? They were going to Labrador on the coast of North America to get wood. They were going there and chopping wood and hauling it back to Greenland for decades, right? Before Columbus or anything. They didn't set up a permanent settlement. They just had temporary camps. And then you get the LaCroix Meadow. I think that's how you say it. LaCroix. No, LaCroix's the drink. Laos. It's A-U-X-E. I don't know how you say it. I'm not going to pretend I know how to say it. But yeah, so we found that the ruins of that because they temporarily travel to other locations to gather resources.
Might have existed before its widely recognized discovery and settlement, sparking curiosity and speculation about the island's history and the extent of ancient exploration. But the real question is, was there a civilization living in New Zealand in these ancient times? In 1972, a remarkable discovery atop a hill in Silverdale, New Zealand, piqued the interest of those fascinated by the country's ancient past. Here, buried under layers of humus accumulated over centuries,
Oh, gosh.
lay a series of mysterious stone boulders. These boulders had lain undisturbed.
We will cover the boulders around the world at some point, I'm sure. But we're not going to do it
Hidden
today.
under the earth for potentially a
I'll let him
couple of
talk about it
thousand
now.
years. What made the find particularly intriguing was the nature and placement of these boulders. Approximately 10 to 12 of them were located at the peak of a clay hill in Silverdale, a setting where coning boulders could not naturally occur due to the geological composition of the area.
Oh,
This
no.
raised immediate questions about their
All
origin.
of a sudden, he's interested in the geological composition of the area. We're 22 minutes into a 30-minute video, and only the first time you mention that is when you're trying to use it to debunk the positioning of these big stone balls.
As such boulders typically form over millions of years in sea sediments, starting as small shells that become coated with layers of sand and lime. Their presence on a clay hill, far from their natural incubation environment, suggested a deliberate act. Ancient people, at some point in history, had transported these markers to the hilltop as part of an overland alignment system. Another interesting find was made after the relocation of these massive boulders in 1992 due to the construction of a motorway. It was during this process that features were discovered
Look, that
on
one's
the
not even
boulder.
completely rounded. Look, it's got like lumpy stuff up over here. I just want to show you the spherical sides.
Features unmistakably made by human hands. This was a significant revelation.
So if you go to like the rivers and stuff around here, the ground looks like this, just big rocks with holes bored in it. This was bored, you can tell it's bored by water. It's silly that they think it was made by a tool.
Further investigations revealed that these boulders lay beneath a layer of tephra ash from the 186 AD eruption of Mount Taupo, indicating that the human-made modifications predated this event.
There are no human-made modifications on this, just to be clear.
Timeline places the alterations to the boulders over 1,000 years before the recognized arrival of the Maori in New Zealand, suggesting a much older, previously unknown chapter of human activity in the region. Among the modifications are beautifully carved bowls, known as Bulan stones in other parts of the world, particularly Ireland, where they are part of ancient blessing and cursing altars. These bowls were meticulously chipped and carved by hand, a process distinct from any mechanical drilling or boring.
I like that they showed a dog here a minute ago. I know it's off topic a little bit, but because there's a native dog that the Maori had called a curry that doesn't exist anymore. It's really cool. It's kind of like a dingo looking, but a little bit smaller.
Incredible discovery is the Kangaroa rock carvings, which were tucked away in the vast expanses of the Kangaroa forest, one of the largest plantation forests in the world. Many believe these carvings offer a tantalizing glimpse into an ancient past that may predate known Maori settlements. The exact origins of the Kangaroa rock carvings remain a topic of debate among historians and archaeologists. The detailed craftsmanship evident in the carvings suggests a sophisticated understanding of art and symbolism, raising the possibility that they could be the work of an unknown ancient civilization that inhabited New Zealand's shores long before
That's
the
literally
arrival
Maori
of the
art that you're
Maori
trying.
people. The carvings themselves depict.
This is Maori art that you're trying to attribute to other ancient Atlanteans or whatever the hell you're talking about. This you literally like, oh, this is politically being covered up because it's not politically correct, dude. You're literally saying, oh yeah, the people that live here when we moved here were too dumb to make this stuff. They could not have done this. They're primitives. That's the argument here, and it pisses me off.
Depict a variety of figures and motifs, some of which bear resemblance to the known iconography of Polynesian cultures, while others seem entirely unique, belonging to no known historical or cultural narrative. Supporting the theory of an unknown ancient civilization are the mysteries surrounding the techniques used to create the carvings. The precision and depth of the carving suggest the use of tools and methods not traditionally associated with the early inhabitants of New Zealand.
There it was. Did you hear it? There was the racism.
In the
Let's hear it
Waipu,
again.
traditionally and depth of the carving suggests the use of tools and methods not traditionally associated with the early inhabitants of New Zealand. It's not traditionally associated with the early inhabitants of New Zealand. In the Waipua Forest in Northland, there's another site believed to be part of a pre-Maori civilization, where the ruins of ancient stone structures were found. These ruins had been noted and written about by early Europeans, who wondered about the stone builders who had lived there. The only thing left to the public are these photos taken on the 11th of November 2000. After a 3-year government investigation and excavation, all findings, including stone structures, artifacts, and everything else of note, were sent away to remain hidden under a 75-year restriction, which will last.
Artifacts? Artifacts. Sure.
Last until 2063. At the end of the archaeological excavations, all public access to the area was denied. Visitors wanting to see the stone artifacts were turned away, and access requests by historians and archaeologists were denied, with the reasons given being that the area had been declared tapu and that it was under a Waitangi Treaty claim. From the
So the people are asking the government to dig on native land when they should be asking the natives if they can dig on their land. Is that what I'm understanding? Okay, can I dig up your ancestral graveyard? And you're like, why won't they let us? That's sus. That's suspicious. If you want to, why you want to stop us from digging up the bones of your ancestors? What's wrong with you? What are you trying to hide? For fuck's sake.
Photos we have, we can see prominent ancient walls emerging distinctly above the layer of humus. Additionally, there are sequences of boundary stones demarcating.
And I'm not even dismissing that this one could be something archaeological, right? From what I see here, there's nothing that seems too out of the that looks like a natural formation, right? That they're trying to pass off as ancient structures. Because it's not like megaliths and things like that they're saying are hundreds of thousands of years old. I don't know much about this site here. I picked this video because of the wall. I wanted to talk about the wall. So this is kind of a second site that they're focusing on, just to I guess they're trying to give you a bunch of minimal facts on this. But if this is a Maori archaeological site, hell yeah, I stand by them saying, hey, don't come in here and dig this stuff up. Indiana Jones is not a hero, right? In the movies, sure, he's fighting Nazis, but to really do what Indiana Jones does is like cringe as fuck.
Specific sections. These stones encircle a central pile of stones, which likely was once a beehive house, a type of rudimentary dwelling that has since collapsed into a disorganized heap. This method of constructing stone dome shelters was widely used in megalithic Great Britain and continental Europe, and it appears that New Zealand's pre-Maori stone people adopted the same technique for their homes. Moreover, numerous boulders
pre-Maori stone people. Shut the
bearing deep groove marks, likely made using stone tools, can be found throughout the forest. These grooves may have been created during the sharpening and shaping of adzes. Such boulders are plentiful and could possibly serve as some kind of pictorial representation. The significant wear on these carved surfaces suggests they are...
Like I said, you can go down to the river here and see surfaces that look like this. This is just natural weathering of rock. That's what weathered rock looks like. This is like not even vaguely, this is like quintessential weathered rock. This would be like if you wanted a picture of what weathered rock looked like in a dictionary, this would be next to it. Right? It's worn down. There's cracks. It's worn down. The edges are worn down into the cracks, creating kind of curved edges with plants and mosses growing out between them. This is weathered rock.
Of considerable antiquity. It's likely that these structures were built thousands of years ago.
Oh, sweetie, if you gotta go to bed, Miss Lemon, you go to bed. I appreciate you hanging out for as long as you did. Yeah, we're about to finish this section up, and then I got Bree's Bestiary, and then we're pretty much done. But yeah, you don't feel obligated to stick around for the whole time. It's like a 3.5 hour long show, or at least 3 hour long show.
Go, when the Waipua forest was not yet a forest, but a fertile ground. The Maori themselves state that they don't know who built this ancient stone city. The Waipua Forest Stone City should be a national treasure, if not a worldwide historic place. Yet not only is it being ignored and not protected, but its destruction is actually being encouraged. This leads to the conclusion that the site could be evidence of a prehistoric civilization, which explains why the New Zealand government wants to avoid its existence being acknowledged by the public or the world. There are many other sites all across New Zealand, like the Puketapu Hill and the Waitapu Valley, which have precise stone markings that could serve as an ancient astronomical observatory site, or the Tapapakanga Park, which many feel is another collapsed ancient settlement with beehive-styled stone houses.
I don't know where they're getting the idea that there were beehive-style houses in... I'll listen while I sleep, Bree. We have spring break some weeks from now. Let's do a live stream together. Yes, sweetie, let's do it. Let's make it happen. All right, I'm going to wrap this up, and then we're going to...
While the efforts to respect indigenous claims are undeniably crucial, they have in this...
Well, kids just showed up with the other doors, so back to work. Y'all have a great... You too, John. Thank you for hanging out.
This instance led to a paradox where the potential knowledge of New Zealand's ancient past remains ensconced in shadows. This approach not only stifles academic freedom, but also deprives the public and the global community of understanding.
Why can't I dig up the graves of native people to support my conspiracy theory? This is erasure, cries the angry white people who want to prove that Atlanteans conquered the globe in ancient times.
A possibly transformative chapter in human history. This suppressed chapter could contribute significantly to our understanding of human migration patterns, architectural practices, and societal structures in the prehistoric Pacific. The issue at heart is not merely about access to information, but about acknowledging and integrating the full spectrum of New Zealand's heritage into its national identity and history. The anticipation grows for a more inclusive and comprehensive narrative that honors both New Zealand's indigenous cultures and its mysterious ancient predecessors. Thank you for watching. If you want to learn more about another megalithic and advanced ancient complex in the Pacific, you can watch our documentary on Nan Madol. The link is in the top pinned comment.
All right, and I was going to read this article, but I think I'm just going to let this guy, because it's kind of running late on the show. There was a video that I just watched, so give me just a moment to get it pulled up. It's just this native Maori guy dunking on this whole conspiracy. Bear with me. Where are you, sweetie? Yeah, it's really short, like a 3-minute video. All right, here we go. And I like this guy's enthusiasm for this topic too. So,
time to put on your tinfoil hats. Now, Every week I find myself having to explain to some conspiracy theorist that there was no human beings in Aotearoa, New Zealand prior to Polynesians. And they tell me, no, there was. There was great civilizations, and the evil Polynesians came along and exterminated them. They exterminated them even down to the microbial level. They wiped out
and
any
nomadic sea people, like the Polynesians were at this time, came and destroyed a giant empire of stone building Atlanteans.
Of any civilization. They must have been amazing archaeologists, Māori, to be able to do that. Now, I'm going to explain to you why no human beings were here in Aotearoa, New Zealand prior to Polynesians. It's down to they didn't make the trip.
Noel Hilliam, an amateur historian, claimed that this woman was part of a vast European civilization right here in Aotearoa. The mystery woman set out from Wales in the British Isles, travelling 28,000 kilometres out into the Atlantic Ocean, down into the South Atlantic Ocean, boxing around Africa, not encountering dangers like scurvy, high seas, or no charts to navigate from, and arrive safely circumnavigating the globe. What will be more plausible is discovering a big continent like Africa. Or why not discover the continent of America? Now, Polynesians, the greatest explorers in human history, set out from Rarotonga, following bird migrations to the Kermadec Islands. Then they island hop from there to Aotearoa, New Zealand. Mr. Hilliam made a submission to the Constitutional Review Panel in regards to his amateur archaeology. As the Maori are not the original people to settle New Zealand, with all the documented and physical evidence available, I am totally for the abolishing of the Maori favoritism and racism that occurs in this country. Noel Hilliam. Despite a plethora of amateur theories about Melanesian, South American, Egyptian, Phoenician and Celtic colonization of New Zealand, there is not a shred of evidence that the first human settlers were anything other than Polynesian.
All right, yeah. So there was this article. It's the same one that that Miss Lemon was referring to about this wall and debunking all the pieces and puzzles of it. I was going to read it, but it's a little long, and I don't have enough time left in the segment for it because we're already out of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link this in the chat. So, oh shoot, where did that go? Cripes on a stick. I'm all over the place. I'll tell you what. Go to my own channel. I closed the chat. There we go. Oh shoot, where did there you go. Alright. So link that in there. So if you wanted to read more about why this is BS, this is from way back in November 1996. This has been debunked for a long time. The people are still pushing this narrative. It's kind of nuts, honestly. But what do you think? Was there an ancient civilization that preceded the Maori in New Zealand? Did they come from Europe and build European-style houses? Let me know in the comments down below. Please remember to take care, be kind. We will see you next time. All right, again, live from the Hive audience. Don't go anywhere. We still have more show to come. There's actually Breeze Bestiary right around the corner. So, while I get that set up, why don't you guys kick back and enjoy this little intermission section. All right. Hello, my beauties and bees, and welcome to another episode of Bree's Bestiary, where I look at my animal pick of the day, and we just kind of explore their history and their interactions with humans, and what impact we've had on them, what impact they've had on us, and I like to start at the top with the most impactful creatures. And while today's animal may not seem like it has a lot of impact, just a cute little pet that people have, sometimes it actually has been very important in human history. But let's let this person explain it to us. That this is Adventures of Pumpkin and Cinnamon. It's just like a guinea pig channel. But they did a cute little video with talking about the history of guinea pigs, and I want to give them some love. They don't got very many subscribers, so 114. So yeah, I'm gonna hit this like. I'm gonna hit the thumbs up. This was from a year ago. It's a brief history of guinea pigs.
Hey everyone, what's up? Pig Mom here again, and today we are going to be talking about the history of guinea pigs. So let's get started. There's a couple common misconceptions from guinea pigs' names, that they are descended from pigs and possibly from Guinea in West Africa or maybe Papua New Guinea in the South Pacific. But they are actually from South America, specifically found in the Andes mountain region. Guinea pigs are also not pigs. They are actually a rodent descended from the Caviaporcellus, branching from the Caveidae, a family of...
These are cavimorphs, which are a very South American group of, I'm just saying this so I know she doesn't get into it too much, but they're a very South American group of rodents, and they have a very distinct wiggle to their chewing pattern, right? You see it, the Mara, Capybara, Nutria, Hoodia, all these cavimorphs that have the wiggly little jaws. I think the American porcupine is cavimorph too. Let me see. I believe so. North American porcupine. Is it a cavimorph? It might not be. I might be mistaken. Let me see. Caviomorph. Yeah. Yes, the North American porcupine is a caviomorph rodent. I thought so. Good grief. Get me doubting myself. Yeah, caviomorphs.
Rodents native to South America, which contains rodents such as the capybaras, Patagonia maraj, Chacoan mara, common yellow-toothed cavy, southern mountain cavy, and yes, of course, guinea pigs. It is believed modern guinea pigs got their name because they look and sound a lot like piglets. And cavia porcellus is a Latin phrase meaning little pig. I couldn't really find a lot of information on who specifically named guinea pigs, but this is also why modern guinea pigs are referred to as cavies, since we just...
So they really, I mean, the origins of the name really comes down to, as far as I can tell, exotic foreign pigs, right? Guinea just means foreign to the British nobility who gave them this common names, and then they're pigs because they're little, and they were actually used as a food source like pigs too for the people who farmed them.
Shorten the name Cavia porcellus. I should warn, some of the images in this section will be graphic in nature, so I recommend discretion before showing this to younger viewers. Guinea pigs were earliest known to be discovered by the Incas around 3,000 years ago. The Incas used guinea pigs as food, which you can still find today in South America, known as cuy. They also...
Would you eat cuy? I think I would eat cuy. Let me see. We'll do a poll. Would you eat cuy? Is it cuy? C-U-E-Y? Make sure I'm spelling that right. Yes, C-U-E-Y. All right. Would you eat cuy? Let me know.
Had a spiritual place in the lives of the ancient Incas, as well as being used in ritual sacrifices with colored string around them. Though I could not find a lot of information as to why they were sacrificed or the significance of the colored string, several articles mention that archaeologists need to do more research to determine this reasoning. Guinea pigs were also used in ancient Incan medicine to help diagnose medical conditions, especially piggies with black fur, as it was believed they had magical power. In 1547, guinea pigs made their first voyage to Europe after being brought to the Old World after the Spanish conquered Peru in 1532. Since then, guinea pigs became a popular pet in wealthy upper-class society and royalty, especially for children. Throughout the 16th and
I bet they were expensive too.
17th century, guinea pigs appeared in many paintings. Here's a few examples of some portraits of children with their guinea pigs. I think it's really interesting to note as well that guinea pigs haven't changed much since that time. The guinea pigs in these paintings look a lot like our piggies today. Time passed, and in the late 1800s, scientists began breeding and using guinea pigs in laboratory experiments to test medicine and later cosmetics. According to an article from the University of Cambridge, guinea pigs were useful as they have biological similarities to humans and could be infected with viruses, and experiments and research conducted on guinea pigs contributed to the cures for many diseases. I used this quote from the Cambridge article I mentioned earlier, and I'll link it in the description below. It says, "Since vitamin C was discovered through research on guinea pigs, they have been important in nutritional research, and they were also crucial to the development of vaccines for diphtheria, TB, replacement for heart valves, blood transfusion, kidney dialysis, antibiotics, anticoagulants, and asthma medicines." So animal testing is a wildly controversial subject. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes at this part in the video to talk.
So that's the thing too. There's a fine line here, but you can't downplay the importance guinea pigs had to our medical advancement over the last couple hundred years. I know that the model species has later moved, like in the 1930s and stuff, they kind of switched over to using mice and rats for lab experiments, but for a long time, guinea pigs were the go-to. And we owe a lot of our advancement, especially you see all the vaccines that they participated in the research on.
A little bit more about the ethics of
participated, were forced into, but you know, It is what it is.
Using guinea pigs as test subjects and my opinion on this. So feel free to skip ahead if this isn't something that interests you, and we'll get back to the remainder of the history of guinea pigs. Okay, for those of you that stuck around for this part, let's get started. Is it ethical to use guinea pigs or any animal in medical research? I think this is one of the most complicated moral issues of our lifetime. From my own research, I've determined the basis of this moral quandary comes down to the simple question of, are human lives more important than those of animals? Since unfortunately, animals are not as big of a problem if an animal does die during the early testing.
So there's things about this that you got to take into mind. It depends on the species of animal you're talking about, right? I hate to sound, there's no way to not be anthropocentric about it, but longevity makes the difference. An animal with a shorter lifespan is going to get less empathy, I guess, from humans because they seem so fleeting. Like, your life's so short, why not use you for an experiment? So there's that position, right? But then you talk about the long-lived animals really do have more advanced cognitive functions because they generally, well, I shouldn't say longer-lived social animals like elephants, for instance, or pigs. Real pigs, not guinea pigs. Guinea pigs are rodents. Rodents, in general, there aren't any rodents that I can think of that I would consider sentient. If there were, they'd probably be cavimorphs. You know?
Process. But if humans were solely used for medical testing, there would be a lot more deaths, and this would likely result in a lot of other problems in the medical research field. Most of the human race does believe that our lives are more important than those of the animals around us. So most of the medical safety laws are based around this belief. I'll read a quote that I found on the animalresearch.info website, which was recommended as a source through the Cambridge University website. In their facts section, they answer the question, shouldn't we use humans to study human diseases? The quote says, it is not always possible or ethical to use humans to study disease. By law, all drugs and medicines are required to be tested on animals to protect the human rights of people who volunteer for drug trials. This testing is not expected to prevent all side effects, but may indicate the type of problem that could occur. There is a lot of good information on this site, so I will link it below and I recommend checking it out. At the end of the day, I don't think there is a good answer to this problem.
Right.
I think as a guinea pig parent, it's really hard to look into my beautiful pigs' faces and imagine the unfortunate horrors animals do often suffer during testing. Most of the sources,
like blast them in the face with chemicals and stuff like that and say, hey, how you feeling? we can give the guinea pigs all the cilantro. They can have it all. I don't want cilantro in my life.
A lot of knowledge to change things in the medical industry, there are some things that we can do to help stop animal testing in other industries such as personal care products, cleaners, and cosmetics. When shopping, choosing to support brands that don't do animal testing is a big thing you can do to help, as it's a good way to directly tell other brands you don't support their product and can help institute change. So looking for the leaping bunny on packaging is how you can determine if a company tests their products on animals. Leaping bunny.
Yeah, that's important to you. Definitely, you can look for that. I get some of my makeup and stuff off Etsy, just specifically so I can make sure it's not animal tested.
Is the only internationally recognized symbol that guarantees the product hasn't been tested on animals. I'll also link Leaping Bunny's website, as they have a ton of great information as well as a shopping guide and much more. A couple of examples of some easy switches you can make are switching simple things like hand soap, toothpaste, shampoos, hair dyes, and cosmetics. There's too many brands out there, especially on an international level, to even attempt to make a chart. So I'll put a couple of my favorite cruelty-free brands in a graphic up on the screen. But I found there isn't much of a difference in price when it comes to switching to cruelty-free products, and often
That's been my experience too. That's pretty much consistent to get cruelty-free products. Obviously, the difference is not whether it's cruelty-free or not. It's in the quality. You pay for more, even cruelty-free. You're paying more for higher quality products, but there are cheaper cruelty-free products as well.
The quality of ingredients are better, and often the companies are smaller, and sometimes even local to your own country or region. The last thing I'd recommend doing is educating yourself on animal testing so you can make informed decisions when it comes to this vastly complicated topic. Anyways, let's get back to the rest of the history of guinea pigs. Through time, guinea pigs' popularity has risen greatly. In an article by Cavi Cage that I'll link below, it is estimated that there are a grand total of 30 million guinea pigs in the world, making them one of the most popular pets. Pet care standards have also changed a lot throughout history. From what I could find, ancient Incas kept guinea pigs in runs outdoors similar to a chicken coop. Guinea pigs were given barley and scraps of different vegetables as the basis of their diet.
They've actually dug some of these up. I tried to find pictures of them, but I couldn't find any. But there's like measurements and stuff about the guinea pig pens that the ancient Incans used. Not ancient Incan, well, maybe kind of ancient. The Incans used for their guinea pigs. Like they were dug down and had tunnels and stuff.
And leftover residue from maize. After being brought to Europe, I couldn't find a lot of specific information about the husbandry of guinea pigs, but I imagine through trial and error, guinea pigs had a similar diet to their native land, and that contributed to the evolution of our pet care standards today. Animal care standards have taken great leaps in the last decade or so, and guinea pigs are living their best life now more than ever. The past 30 to 50 years of guinea pig care standards are the most well documented, with books being published, pet stores selling guinea pigs, and brands developing products targeted at them. Unfortunately, a lot of these books didn't have the correct information, and a lot of the products just weren't suitable for guinea pigs. But with more research, the evolution of the internet, and the introduction of social media, things are changing, and we are now able to give our fuzzy friends the best life. Anyways, guys, I hope you learned something today about the history of guinea pigs, and if so, I'd love to hear what in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.
Yeah. All right, so that was a little bit of history of guinea pigs in labs. I'm gonna this one's really short. I'm just gonna read a little bit more details about the vitamin C and stuff. I'm not gonna read this section here since it's basically the same thing she just went over, but scientific and medical breakthroughs attributed to guinea pigs. You may have heard guinea pig used frequently as a colloquial term for test subjects. Although you usually wouldn't want to be the guinea pig for much of anything, given the implied risk of being the first attempt, these furry rodents have historically served as a vital subject of medical research thanks to their many biological similarities with humans. Beyond the fact that guinea pigs are fellow mammals, its immune system and auditory structures also share similarities to those of humans, thus making research on hearing issues, allergens, and infectious diseases particularly feasible. A few notable breakthroughs are listed below. Although the concept of vitamins was not developed until 1912, Norwegian physician Axel Holst and Theodore Froelich discovered a laboratory animal model using guinea pigs in 1907 that would eventually help identify the anti-scorbutic, or aka anti-scurvy, a disease caused by a deficiency in vitamin C factor. Their studies proposed initially was to investigate beriberi, a disease common at the time on board ships that was a result of thiamine deficiency. When they conducted their experiments using a test diet of grains and flours for the guinea pig, they were surprised to see that what manifested was scurvy instead of beriberi. By sheer coincidence, guinea pigs happened to be unable to endogenously produce their own vitamin C, just like humans, and unlike their counterparts of rats and mice. See, that's a key factor right there, that they are similar to us in that they're unable to endogenously produce their own vitamin C. Thanks to guinea pig, researchers were able to further investigate the cause of scurry, a deficiency in vitamin C. The discovery and characterization of the bacteria that causes tuberculosis. Esteemed German physician and microbiologist Robert Koch used guinea pigs to identify and describe the bacterium M. tuberculosis, which, as its name suggests, causes the disease tuberculosis. The discovery can be attributed again to the similarity shared between guinea pigs and humans, namely their sensitivity to particular infections. Guinea pigs require very low doses of the M. tuberculosis bacterium to induce the subsequent TB disease, and were therefore particularly well suited for TB research. Up until today, the guinea pig is still used for TB research as the model for further development of vaccines against the disease. Robert Koch, 1843 to 1910, renowned physician and microbiologist who first described M. tuberculosis. Reliable animal models for airway diseases, including asthma and COPD. Guinea pigs have historically been the most commonly used animal species in preclinical studies investigating asthma and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. Their autonomic control of their airway, along with their sensitive response to allergens, are both characteristically and physiologically similar to those of humans. In addition to asthma and COPD, guinea pigs are also similarly susceptible to viral respiratory infections and produce a similar immune response to that of humans. That characterization of their response to viral respiratory infections includes inflammatory cell recruitment, upregulated cytokine gene expression, and airway hyper responsiveness, just like humans. All right, so that was a little brief history of guinea pigs for us, and I thought it was interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed this little segment of Bree's Bestiary, just cracking into a little bit of cavimorph contribution to science. All right, got one more little segment coming up to you, and it is going to be a paleo peek. If that piques your interest, stick around, because we have something exciting, and it's going to be kind of short, but it'll be fun anyway. I'll see you guys over there after this short musical interlude. I think it's musical. Yeah, I think it's musical.
Yo, VIPs, let's wick it. Alright, stop, collaborate and listen. Ice is back with my brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly, flow like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the light. I glow to the extreme. I rock a mic like a vandal. Light up a stage and wax a chomp like a candle. Dance, bum rush, speaking that boom, killing your brain like a poisonous mushroom. Deathbed. When I play it on melody, anything less than the best is a felony. Love it or leave it. Better gateway, better hit bulls out the kid don't play. If there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while DJ revolves it. Ice, ice, baby. Vanilla ice, ice, baby. Vanilla ice, ice, baby. under the ice, baby. Well, now that the party is jumping with the bass kicked in and the Vegas are pumping, quick to the point, no faking, cooking MCs like a pound of bacon, burning them, we're not quick and nimble, go crazy when I hear a cymbal, a hot top with a boot up gimbo, on a roll, time to go solo, rolling in my 5.0, rack top down with my hair can blow, girl is on standby, waving just to say hi, did you stop? No, I just drove, I kept on, pursuing to the next stop, busting left, headed to the next block was dead, yo, I continue to A1A, Beachfront Avenue, girls were hot, wearing less than bikinis, rock man lovers, driving Lamborghinis, jealous, cause I'm out getting my shade with a gauge of vanilla with a 9 ready for the jumps off the wall, jumps at the nail, cause I'm full of 8-ball gunshots, ranged out like a bell, grabbed my 9, all I heard was shells falling on the concrete, real fast, guns in the car, slammed on the gas, bumper to bumper, avenues packed, try to get away before the jackers jack, police on the scene, know what I mean, they passed me up in front and on the dope beat, there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it, check out the hook while DJ revolves it, ice, baby, vanilla ice, baby, vanilla ice, baby, vanilla ice, baby. Well, take it cause I'm a lyrical poet. Miami's on the scene in case you didn't know it. My town created all the bass sound enough to shake and kick holes in the ground. My style's like a chemical spill. Feasible rhymes, shaking vision and feel. Conducted and formed is a hell of a concept. We make it hype. You wanna step with this? Shape plays on the fade, slice like a ninja, cut like a razor blade. So fast, other DJs say, damn, if a rhyme was a drug, I'd sell it by the gram. Keep a composure when it's time to get loose. Man, it dies by the mic while I kick my juice. If there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while TV revolves it. Ice, baby, vanilla ice, baby, vanilla ice, baby.
All right. Hello, and welcome to a little slice of Paleo Peak for you today. Why is my camera up so high? That's so bizarre. I didn't mean to put it that high. Anyway, hello, I am your host, Miss Bumblebee, and thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to be... we're going to be diving into a new fossil discovery. And it's not like just any fossil discovery. I always like when they name it after something from pop culture. Just me, I'm a nerd like that. But we actually have discovered a new species of ancient turtle. Newly discovered fossil of giant turtle is named after Stephen King novel character. And these are capybaras to give you an idea of what size this sucker is. Yeah, if you know how big a capybara is, then you kind of get what we're going for here. This is a massive turtle. So, Peltocephalus maturin. An international research team led by Dr. Gabriel S. Ferreira from Schnickenberg Center for Human Evolution and Paleo Environment at the University of Tübingen, I think that's how you say that, has described a new species of giant turtle from the late Pleistocene. Peltocephalus maturin is between 40,000 and 9,000 years old and comes from the Brazilian Amazon. With a shell length of around 180 centimeters, the species is one of the largest known freshwater turtles in the world. The armored reptile was named after the giant turtle Maturin, a fictional character created by best-selling author Stephen King. With a maximum shell length of 140 centimeters, the Asian narrow-headed soft-shell turtle, Chitra, together with the approximately 110 centimeter long South American river turtle, Podonemus expansa, is one of the largest freshwater turtles alive today. In the past, we only know of a few turtles living in fresh water, and they had shell lengths of more than 150 centimeters, explained Dr. Ferreira. Such large animals are most recently known primarily from the Miocene, a period around 23 to 5 million years ago. Ferreira and an international team have now discovered a giant representative of this order of reptiles from the end of the Pleistocene, around 40,000 to 9,000 years ago, and describe it as a new species. The fossil remains, part of the turtle's lower jaw, were collected by gold miners at the Taquaras quarry in Porto Velho, Brazil. Based on various characteristics, the research team assumed a close relationship with modern big-head Amazon turtle, which is Peltocephalus numeralis, and an omnivorous diet. Is that a side neck turtle? I bet it is. We'll look it up in a second. We named the new species after the giant turtle Maturin, an overarching protagonist in Stephen King's multiverse. Maturin is responsible for the creation of the universe in King's novels and films, explains Ferreira. The paper published in Biology. Here's the paper. There's the jaw. They call it the holotype. They call it a tortoise here, though. Is it a tortoise or a turtle? We'll look, because we're going to look up the name. Because it's a big-headed turtle, so it's not a tortoise. But yep, it's Pleurodira, so it's a side neck turtle. So yeah, they all have giant heads. The biggest side neck turtles are the Mata-Matas. Have you all ever seen a Mata-Mata? Mata-Mata massive. Referencing the turtle's extremely large size, Dr. Ferreira says this is very surprising because freshwater turtles, in contrast to their terrestrial and marine relatives, rarely have such gigantic forms. And the youngest giant fossil known to date come from the Miocene deposits. The new find is the youngest known occurrence of a giant freshwater turtle and suggests a coexistence of Peltocephalus maturin with early human inhabitants in the Amazon region. People settled the Amazon region around 12,600 years ago. We also know that large tortoises have been on the diet of hominids since the Paleolithic. Whether freshwater turtles, which are much more difficult to catch due to their agility, were also eaten by early humans, and whether Peltocephalus maturin, together with the South American megafauna, fell victim to human expansion is still unclear. Here we need more data from the late Pleistocene and early Holocene deposits of the Amazon basin, says Ferreira, giving an outlook on future work. Yep, so that's our new giant turtle named after Stephen King's character, Maturin. I feel like I'm obligated to show you guys what the Amazon big-headed turtle looks like. And this tells you here, right here, that this is a side neck turtle, because they come in Cryptodyra and Pleurodira. Pleurodira is a side neck turtle. Cryptodyras go in and out with their head. Most turtles are Cryptodyra. All tortoises, all sea turtles are Cryptodyra. The outliers, people always wanted to lump turtles like, freshwater turtles and then sea turtles and tortoises into three different groups, when actually it is divided into two groups, which is Cryptodyra and Pleurodira. And Cryptodyra contains the freshwater turtles, pond turtles that pull their head straight back and live in North America, Asia, Africa. They live a lot of places, but tortoises are also in this group, right? So giant tortoises, all tortoises are in this group. All sea turtles are in this group. Even though sea turtles don't really pull their head back too much anymore. But the other group, which also contains pond turtles, which you might want to, people want to lump them together with the Cryptodeira aquatic turtles, but non-marine aquatic turtles, but they're not closely related at all. There's this group called the side neck turtles, right? Which live mostly in the southern hemisphere and Australia. Let's see. They got the extant ones here. Let's see. Where's our extant groups? Yeah, navigating this stuff is kind of awkward. Yeah, here we go. So, Pleurodira turtles are currently restricted to the freshwater habitats of the southern hemisphere, largely to Australia, South America, and Africa. So, and then the rest of the world has Cryptodeira. So, I want to show you guys the biggest Cryptodeira, or the biggest, I keep saying Cryptodeira, the biggest Pleurodira that I know of, which is the Mata Mata. Here we go.
For example, this is a sucking turtle.
I don't need your audio commentary. See, it looks like it's made out of dead leaves, and these guys get huge though. They get like massive, but they have such a derpy face. They're literally the derpiest. Yeah, here we go. Here, hold on. I made a thread of some of the derpiest faces of Mata Matas on derpetology. Look at this derpy. They got like a little. They got a snorkel nose. Their like nose is long and snorkely, and retractable. Look how derpy they are. Like a little piggy nose. There's the snoot. 1 second. Where was I? Sorry about that. Here we go. Yeah, you see his little snorkel nose there. So they never have to really surface. They got a happy smile, though. There's one with a baby one on its head. Anyway, yep, that's the Mata Mata. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I will probably release something later this week about some future plans. So keep your eye out for that. I got some thinking to do. So things are going to change. No. Anyway, please remember to be kind. Take care, and we'll see you next time. All right, yeah, seriously, guys, seriously, thank you for sticking around. Really appreciate you. Yeah, I got a lot stirring in my brain right now. So, stick with me. Something's gonna happen. Be kind. Take care. See you next time.